Alrighty. Hello. Welcome everyone to the playroom. This is again actually the playroom I grew up in when I was a child, as you can see from the Beanie Babies. And this show is now a playroom now that an adult to discuss the things that I'm playing with now, which are primarily shamanic psychotechnologies and integral theory, and thinking about how we can play forward to a new earth and a culture that integrates the insights of indigenous traditions, traditional societies, modern societies, postmodern societies, and brings those together in an integral embrace that is hopefully abundant and holistic for all of us. And to that end, I've been having some conversations here so far just with people my age, my friends who have also been seekers along the path and discussing some of the things we've encountered on our journeys. And this number five is very special because I'm here with Jonathan Mozenter, who I met at the Integral Conference of North America last month. And he is the first integral elder that we're bringing here with us on the podcast to share some of the things that he's learned on his journey and some of the things that have already been figured out and established. As the younger generation, we want to connect ourselves outward to the communities of practice that have already gained amazing insights and people who have already been on the path and try and download some of that information so we're not just reinventing the wheel. And then we can add our own flavor on top of it. But I hope this is the first of many conversations with Jonathan, as well as with many other integral elders in engaging with this work of seeing what's come before us and trying to integrate that as we continue to add our generation's contributions onto it. So, Jonathan, thank you so much for being here with me. And I know you have studied with so many different traditions and lineages, and I know you hold so much wisdom. So I'm so grateful to have you here and to have you share some of that with us.
Thanks, sorry. Thanks for having me on the playroom. I want to talk actually about play. What if I told you the go from my perspective as an integral quote unquote elder? Although I still think of myself as youthful, but I want to tie that in about being elder, youthful, and play. Because even I'm an integrally spiritualist, which means I take information from all different kinds of traditions, and I'm going to go over my background. But I want actually some part of when you said the new earth. I believe a little. I'm not even a Christian, but I've studied a little bit of the Bible, and I think it says that in the new earth we return to children to be playful, and
Mhm.
that's actually true for me. I'm 53, but I have more energy now than I did when I was in my 20s. And it's because of these integral practices, integral being, which I'm gonna talk about. So the goal here is to return to play. Life is play, and the only reason we don't feel that is because of something we're gonna traumas, something we're gonna talk about. I know. First off, I want to comment a little about just our relationship and just what we just met, but we had this like deep connection like right away. Whether I know you're younger than me physically, but you've got a lot of spiritual wisdom for someone your age, and it's good to see that your generation is picking it up faster, and so that's important because we're headed to a new era. I want to come back to trauma, but I want to talk a little bit about my story so people have
Yeah.
a little bit idea where I'm coming from because I've been in this transformation game pretty much my whole life. I didn't know, right away that this was going to be my path, but I grew up in a household where my parents were social workers. So I grew up with actually psychology as as my first mental model. We weren't that religious. We were like an unreformed Judaism, which nobody in my family was super into. But the psychology. So I started right away thinking about the consciousness, the mind, which is something I'm going to come back to. And I got excited about transformation. I actually found a passion in college. I always knew I was good at math and I got attracted to business because of that. But then actually once I got into it, I found a way to take my business excitement and my psychology and I started studying organizational behavior and which led into this career of change management or organizational developments and another thing. And it's all about the protocols of transformation. So transformation is a science. It's been studied in not just esoteric, but in the mainstream. Corporations use it. There are known processes of individuals growing and then collectives. It's like a social science of the protocols of the process of change. So
Mhm.
just to give your viewers a little bit about my experience,
Yeah.
I spent most of my time on large system change projects. I was actually a consultant I was a contractor for the federal government. For the Department of Transportation has their own consulting thing called the Volpe Center. Their agency, my clients were like Federal Railroad Administration, which regulates the entire railroad, and the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So, just an example of one project to give people an idea of the kind of work that I did was the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration called in a team of us at the Volpe Center. They were like, "Hey, our goal is to get accidents and fatalities, the trend lines to keep dropping," and they were plateauing. We're like, we got to do something about that. So we did a whole assessment. Like talked to all the stakeholders. We looked at the whole thing holistically, which I know you are into as an integralist, and we'll come back to that. So it was really taking in the whole thing. We were looking at the systems they had in place. We were looking at the culture, the mental models of the employees and the different stakeholders, their behaviors, health, all that thing, and what can we do differently in terms of a process. And so we worked with them. It was a collaborative process. And eventually we did a whole reorganization. And it was like I was on the project for 10 years. So it was really cool to be part of something that was very ambitious, that did a whole reorganization and walk it through the whole thing. Because that's aligned with my sole purpose, is that's training. But now here to more work on help the species evolve. And what happened is, just to take people along my career path and how I got into integral theory and some of the other transformational tools, I just had this feeling I was meant to bring together different tools and be an entrepreneur. But then I had a stuck moment. I was doing too many things and I didn't know how to get past it. And this was at age 39. I was having a good life, but I wanted this. I knew I was here to have a 10 out of 10. I just knew this heaven on earth thing was good for me as an individual and for everyone else. And I feel like I was getting like a 7.5 life. It was good, but I was like, I'm not stopping at this. I actually just said to the universe, I'll do whatever it takes to manifest my 10. And things started changing. And it was right around that age, a little before that, some people in my organizational development community exposed me to integral, about like this, looking at this holistic. And Ken's work really expanded my interest in spirituality. Actually, it didn't just expand it went from I was agnostic and just not really thinking about spirituality to, looking at the patterns of life, metaphysics. That's an interesting way of looking at spirit. And so it started to really ignite that part of me. The other thing exposed to was meditation. So meditation was not on my radar. And he talked a lot about how it was important. And I was like thinking I was taking some ADD pills. I was like, I could do better. Just mastering the mind. And I've always had this thing as an interest in psychology, that every moment of our experience happens, the mind's involved. So I was like, this is an important tool. And I want to talk. This is one of the most pivotal things that happened to me. Is I took this Daniel P. Brown. He was asked by the Dalai Lama he's an American who studied like Tibetan and psychology, and he can translate to actually, he was also like a longtime meditator, but he was actually asked by the Dalai Lama and the Dalai Lama's senior Vajrayana meditation teacher to translate the secret teachings of Tibet and bring them to the West. And he had permission to keep the essence of it, but make them westernized. And somehow I actually got into it through an integral theory meetup. And it's one of the most important things that ever happened to me, because I just thought I was going to this class, I'll get a little more focused. But it turns out the Tibetans, they're up in the mountain and they were stuck there for thousands of years. Nobody attacked them. They were staring at their mind in caves, like cave yogis. Turns out that's really important, because they figured out stuff about the nature of reality that nobody else figured out. And so this was my kind of entry point into the mystical, and first as an idea, but they started pointing to things in the mind, and maybe later we can get into a little bit of depth with that, but it
Right.
changed my understanding of life. And they introduced something they're like, sometimes you can just know without thinking about anything. And as someone who was like a deep thinker, I was like, that's weird. But what happened is I started these meditation practices, and that's exactly what happened, is started like my intuition on board. It started guiding me. And first I was a little weird, but I was like, screw it, I got to try this out. And then it turned out every time I listened to it, great things happened. And I discovered that, hey, this is probably what we need. The world's too complicated for our minds to figure out. We actually need this higher intelligence, this higher capacity to bring us into this heaven on earth. I actually believe that 100%. It helped me see like a higher power in a new context. And I want to come back to that. But I
Hmm.
want to just finish off and then about the rest of my story, because you talked about a lot of teachers. So what happened was I started to notice the world was very polarized and there was a lot of corruption and the powers to be. And I was like, oh, how can I do something about it? I got really informed of not only mainstream stuff, but maybe some esoteric perspectives on the nature of reality. And what happened was they said, here in Tibetan Buddhism, they call like the truth body they call it the Dharmakaya. And so I was like, dear Dharmakaya, I just want to help. I don't have a lot of requests. Make it be a good time for me. Use me well. And I got answers. It basically, to summarize what happened afterwards, because I feel like we're going to talk a lot about this period too, is Jonathan, the teachings of Tibet, they're awesome, but they take a long time. And this process of bringing to the West, there's a lot of new tools. There's psychedelics, there's advances in Western psychology, there's like energy masters, there's all kinds of stuff. And what happened was they just started to guide me to other teachers. So I've studied a lot of stuff. I studied with a chi master named Sifu Jones, Chi Energy Heals, and that had taught me how to actually our body is electric and how to make that energy body go up. And then I became a serious psychonaut for a period of time where I went into using psychedelics with purpose to become the highest state of what Tibetans taught, like how to become a Buddha, which I would say is the face of the divine. I can talk to you. We can get more into that later if you'd like. This waking up line of development that Ken talks about. What is it really? And then I studied conscious language. We actually manifest things with our word and we reveal things that are in our unconscious. And we should talk definitely about unconscious because that's one of the things we got to penetrate the unconscious. Our unconscious things are hidden, are causing us to repeat in patterns until we actually see what's going on in our subconscious. What I discovered myself is how I broke my pattern. So I went from being in a job that was a B job to now living an A plus super adventurous life. I feel like I'm in a cool movie. I'm like a main character in a cool movie from someone who's like watching a lot of movies. It's a big difference. And I know that's possible for everybody. And so the last teacher I want to talk about has been a game changer. All these were important, but this guy, Donnie Epstein, he teaches something called epi-energetics. And it's really important because it's new. He has applied it to chiropractics, but basically this dude, I'm telling you, the universe sent him here to bring us new codes, like literally. He calls them creations codes. And he talks about when he was like real little, he didn't see people. He just saw lines of information before they turned into a picture, which
Whoa.
is bonkers. But then I guess that lasted for a little while. But then he taught that there are certain lines of code or energies that are ruling the universe. And when you can identify them, name them, you can start working with them. And then life gets a lot easier instead of flowing with them. So that's something I think not only should we talk about, but we talked about like maybe giving people a taste of it. Because I think we can talk a lot, but also experience. This is one of the things there's experience. So let's get into this epi-energetics, what it is, and give people a taste of it. So it's not just words. So it's this idea that we're all influenced by energies. You know how if you went to the eye doctor and they put those things are like, how does this look? Does this look better or worse? These are like lenses. And it turns out that based on our stuff on our unconscious, all our lenses have different filters on it, and we're not always aware of them. And the meditation stuff help you. So we're always filtering life through certain energetics unconsciously. But what if we decided to get not only present to those, that's one thing, but or even just deciding proactively if energy first, the energetics rule, like they're like almost the goggles that we do it, we could actually create energies that guide us. And so thought what we do today is we would do what I call a group energy contract. So it'll include me, you, and your audience. And we're gonna do it together and I'll facilitate the process. It's really simple, actually. We're gonna pick four energetics, and I'll guide us through this process to energize the rest of the podcast. Okay, are you
Right.
ready for this? All
I'm
right.
ready.
I'm gonna suggest a couple, and we have to agree on it. Okay. The first one is I feel like we should really tap into our soul wisdom, like our experience. Would you like to like bring that energy in, like where you're like the divine is like coming through you, your soul's coming through you, and you're speaking? How would you like to do that?
I like that one.
Okay, good. And I want to include your audience, and we can even talk about this. I know you're talking about but the term non-duality. I don't know if you've talked about it on previous episodes or not. What does that even mean? But let's actually give a practical application here. We're gonna, in this energy bundle, I suggest that we actually imagine that we're channeling through them too. Like we know who they are, all the current listeners, the future listeners, so that when we answer, we're talking specifically to them,
Mhm.
and we know that way what I learned is one consciousness anyways, but we have to activate it. I could
I,
just pretend I'm here, but if I activate this non-dual perception, which just means we're all one of the understandings of non-duality is that we're all connected. It's all one brain,
right.
all
That's
one
right.
consciousness. So you into doing that?
I would love to.
Okay. So the other two, I want to get you suggest some suggestions. What would be some energies you would like to have in this container? Emotions, feelings. I can suggest things you can pick from, or if you have just maybe into your intuitions is coming up with some. Is there anything that you can think of?
Yeah, one thing I think that came up was archetypes, bringing in bringing in
Archetypes,
various archetypes, and maybe the Earth Mother, bringing in
the Earth Mother.
or
Okay.
that thing, one energy that I felt.
All right, we definitely should talk. Those are topics, and I
Okay,
definitely want to talk about
okay.
those two. But this is new to
Oh,
you,
okay.
so we're actually talking about maybe like emotion. So, well, let me
Okay.
give you like a list of 10 or
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
and
that'd be
see if
helpful.
we could have like grace or
Okay.
enthusiasm or compassion or love or victory, celebration. There's a lot of things we could grounded.
Victory
Those
sounded good. I like victory.
victory. Okay, let's do victory.
I like
All
victory.
right.
Yeah,
Anything
that's
else?
helpful. I was thinking like topics. You're talking about the actual.
Yeah, we're talking about energies. I agree with those topics. Those sounds like great topics. Let's keep that, but let's energize them with like the kind of like the vibrancy, the kind of, so let's do victory.
And groundedness is like the energy of the Earth Mother. Think what
Okay.
I'm getting at was like that grounded.
Actually, we could put that together. We could even have grounded victory.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need anything else? Okay. So I'll show you how we're gonna do it. It's
Oh
really
yeah.
easy. Okay. Put your left hand up like this. And I'll pick the order for us. So I'm gonna start with the soul intelligence. The soul intelligence is a word that just means like that beyond this unbound energy, this free energy that's creative and novel. So think of a time where you felt like you really had it, super powerful, and just know that you can bring it right here. And something I said to me is like a lot of times people, we're going to do something to really stimulate the soul intelligence. I want you to take both your hands and put them up like this and look up into the future. And I want you to imagine that the quantum field is like entirely right here, like all time is here, and you can connect to a timeline where this show just went bonkers. It was a super popular, everyone got what they wanted, it was a win for the world. And just imagine that you're connecting to that, and that timeline, just find it and just see an energy bolt shooting from your third eye, and it's like just giving you the codes for the show on the they'll just release as the show is coming by, but make sure that you get them. Let's just spend a couple seconds here. Okay. Put your hands down when you're ready. So in the left hand, we just have those codes, right? And then in the right hand, I want you to imagine who you think the audience members are and connect to their consciousness and almost allow them mystically to give you the questions they want to know, the answers they want to go, the energetics. And for whatever reason, you might say things in ways you've never said before, ask new questions. The conversation might go places neither of us have ever explored because we're getting super mystical here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Love it.
so we both have shaman energies. It's gonna go epic. So just feel
Oh
this non-dual and the soul intelligence from the future where we know everything went epic. And so I want you to do this. We're gonna combine them. It's called bundling. So we're gonna take this one and we're gonna go like this. We're gonna go back and forth. We got this soul intelligence in the future. We're connecting with all of the people who are gonna be watching this, and we're gonna source them. We're gonna go back and forth. Start to bring your hands closer and closer together. I'm gonna count down from 3, 2, 1. When I get to 0, just clap. Just go like this. Boom. Sorry. And I call this almost like prayer 7.0. It's a really powerful intention setting using the energies of the universe. And it's almost, I call it like programming. I know a lot of people, I don't know if you guys like to program, but like consciousness in the field can actually, if you give intelligent instructions, you can guide it. And that's one of the things I teach people to do. All right. So let's add the last thing. So all this information goes in our left hand, and we're just going to put in the last one, rounded victory. I don't know. I'm gonna interpret. Now that we're already connected to your audience, I'm getting I'm just channeling this. Grounded victory is people want to give us practical stuff. Like you guys can talk theory, but I'm getting like, let's ground this in how it can make individuals' lives better now. What if they're like stories or techniques that they can use right now? And I'm getting there are two other things that want to come through. Yeah, don't be afraid to like share personal stuff. It's saying we want to. It's cool to read a Ken Wilber book, but show us how it practically works. Because I think people want to know that this isn't just a theory, that people have actually lived these things out and tried it out ahead of time, and it's safe and productive. And the last one, I'm getting like something about, is there actually it seems like a shit show out there sometimes with the polarity. Is there an actual path where, where the people of your age can really thrive? I know a lot of people are worried about the economics and the currency, and sometimes it looks bad. So I'm getting maybe grounded in a real path towards a victory for all of us. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm feeling. Great. So let's get into the grounded victory mixed in with our transpersonal and our non-dual approach back and forth. So let's bring our hands closer and goes together. 3, 2, 1. All right. So now we just to finish it off, just open up your hands like this and imagine that these energies surround us and they include all the audience. And so it is. We're here. Let's go. Let's give them show that that they want for it. It's done. But now we just got to remember. We don't just got to. We're get the pleasure of remembering how awesome it was.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That was very playroom. That was exactly what I needed, and I think we needed.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. Hell yeah. Wow, so much there, so much to dive into.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe on that idea of grounded victory, I think something that has come more alive for me, and I think a lot of my friends recently, as we've exited college, we're in the real world, people are questioning the conventional path, and there's a lot
Yep.
of fear with leaving the conventional path,
Yep.
and especially leaving the conventional path, but retaining conventional mindsets. And
Mm.
what I was getting when you were talking about your journey was that and correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like what was helping you go that from that 7.5 life to that 10 life and go this other way was because you were surrendering to a higher intelligence. You
Yes.
were trying to think it through better. You weren't trying to find the right rational thought that was going to click into place that you
Yes.
couldn't see before. There was actually a different mindset, a different intelligence you were tapping into that was telling the story. And that is what has led to the abundance, not necessarily
Yes.
just the leaving the conventional path or thinking differently or reading more Ken Wilber. It's the actual embodied surrendering to an intelligence that is higher than us.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm getting to share a little bit about
Please.
that. I'm getting actually something that's saying I quit my job in 20, was it October 15, 2018? That was a big deal because I was at that job for 18 years. It offered a lot of security and comfort. It's not a government thing. I wasn't making millions of dollars, but also I was making low six figures. I was living a comfortable life in Boston, a lot of friends. So I could have easily just kept coasting. So just telling you that you can make the jump. This is probably the best time ever to make a jump. My spirit's saying AI is here. It's going to make things a lot easier, especially if you're out there, you're open to learn about this social media, about computers, and you're not afraid of it. I could say that to like my parents, but I know that gives them a lot of anxiety, all this new stuff. But especially your generation, this is a great time to be alive. And there's a lot of opportunity because you can do what's called long tail, which means you can get a niche and you can, because the internet, you can reach anybody in the world. And so you can build an audience, and the esoteric tools that, that I've learned and others are out there on the internet. So I'd actually say you're better off leaving the conventional and going to the non-conventional, because eventually the non-conventional is going to be the conventional. And if you get it earlier, you're gonna benefit. So something is telling me, give them a few tastes of what it's like to,
Yeah.
what do I mean by, all right, I have a soul mission to make the mystical rational. All right. And I want to start with a new way of understanding energy. And what is this like thing from beyond? Because that could sound scary. A lot
Right.
of people have their own way of thinking about it. What do you mean? I'm just going to trust some kind of blurb coming in my head? That sounds crazy. And I would have said the same thing. So I can relate to that. So let's start there. So there are two, this is one way of looking at energy. There's two kinds of energy. There's bound energy and unbound. Now, I want to tell you what I mean by that. Bound energy is anything that you can describe. So anything that's an object, a thought, a feeling, a sensation, a person, anything you can, it's got a label on it, that's bound. That's already a thing. So unbound, by definition, is opposite of that, is free energy. Now, when you're looking at life, if you are looking at something like from your old ideas of things, that's a bound way. So you can have a bound way of looking at things to look at a bound reality. And most of the time you're going to come up with the same interpretations, right? So occasionally it's not, you can see patterns after a while. Like you mentioned, a while you do things for a while, you're like, I don't know about that. There are some growth, but if you want to increase that a lot, you can learn how to have more unbound energy. So unbound energy is just free energy. So some people are like, why does meditation actually work? There's several reasons why it works. One is that if you start getting some stillnesses between our racing minds, you can stimulate some unbound energy. So you give an opportunity to see something with fresh eyes and get some novelty and creativity. So that's number one. So I'm getting to talk about three things. So one, that's one. Two is about, I'm getting subtle. The key, this is about meditation. And this gets back to what I was talking about earlier, these filters. I know for sure, like you talked about, I don't want to have my younger generation to repeat the mistakes that I made. And so I'm telling you, every human being, there's some things that are just universal. When you are growing up, we have to take ownership. We actually get, as a baby, as a small toddler, sometimes not sometimes, it's guaranteed that some emotions scare the shit out of us, or it could be like fear or danger or humiliation, self-hatred at like super high level intensity levels, maybe not at a low level, but like intensity 10, or maybe you stack three of them at the same time. And the little kids, I don't want to feel that. It feels like death. It feels like my whole conscience is crumbling. I can't stop crying. This is the worst thing ever. And they create what's called a defense program to avoid feeling those feelings.
That's
This
right.
is a universal thing. And there's this primordial desire for the consciousness to digest their feelings. And so, in every human being, imagine there's a part of you that wants to feel their feelings and a part of you that's avoiding feeling those feelings. And
Right.
it's like going into your MS config, you're part of your computer, where you find the programs, like the virus programs. I don't know if it's a virus, but it's basically an energy hog. It's something in your consciousness sucking your energy. And I'm telling you, like, if we prioritize that, or as a species, but first we've got to start with more people just doing it and having success. What happens is, I know the protocols, the exact ways, and we can get into this a little bit later about
Yep.
how you do it, is to unwind that. You can reprogram. Your mind is a little bit like a computer. You can feed it new codes if you understand how the mind works. And that will free up new energy. When you have higher energies and you stop if you, because what happens if you don't do that unconsciously, the universe will keep trying to recreate situations for you to feel that thing that you don't want to feel. So you're gonna do it when you're gonna move beyond it and get to the next thing. It's almost like a game. Like we're
Right.
talking about good levels. You might as well just consciously do it, because the life's gonna do it anyways. So you could do it safely, like with people who know how to do it safely, or the universe will give it to you however it gives it to you. So
Right.
you can make a choice. I'm just telling you right now, I say this with love. If you only learn one thing from this podcast, this is a good one to asterisk it. Learn how to feel feelings you're suppressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One one thing couldn't agree more, and I'm loving this so much. And maybe just break down for us, why does having a defense mechanism take energy?
Yeah.
That might be counterintuitive for some people. I'm just getting that, okay, this is something that's going to stop me from feeling something really horrible. Wouldn't feeling that really horrible thing actually be really destructive to my life, cause me a lot of problems? Isn't that defense mechanism actually saving me energy? Why, in fact, is it actually taking up energy?
Yeah. That's a great question. So, first off, let me get into practice how it would work. A defense mechanism is a conditioned pattern that you subconsciously do automatically. So, it's almost like there's some vigilant part of you that's on the lookout to where's that thing? And I don't know if you've heard of, I'm sure, projections. So sometimes like people have like irrational fears. That's your defense pattern. Your transparency, oh my God, that could be the thing that's going to lead you to that feeling. Don't do it. And it could be completely. So first off, just the fact that some part of you, it's like a parts work. Our mind has different parts. There's a part of you that's on guard all the time, trying to make sure. And some part of me saying, like, Ryan, there's actually multiple parts. There's multiple defense patterns. And so all the time they're sending out warnings that this fear, this could go wrong. This will lead to humiliation. This is going to lead to your death. This is going to lead to shame. It's just our pain, whatever kind of pain flavor pain you hate the most. It's just going to be warning. And then you got to manage it. So then you got this thing that's on the lookout. That takes a lot of energy. Then it put this thing in your head and you're like, oh shit, is that real? Is it not real? And you're not even present with what's actually happening because you're so caught up in these other thoughts. And then takes energy to get just back into presence and be productive. So it's on many levels, it sucks us so much of our time and energy. And then think about this, when somebody's like really in that state, they're not that fun to be with. You're not really shining in your best forth. And then that can lead to fights and one person get vibrating that energy, other people do it. So that takes up a lot of energy. Think about just how it actually plays out in life versus the other thing. If you got a bunch of people who are like optimistic and happy and really present, I bet the energy flows gonna be more productive versus deconstructive. Does that help?
It's so helpful. It's so well said. I think this idea of a lot of times life is giving us, at least I felt this in my own life, there's opportunities around me that I've just been ignoring because I've been caught in the past and I've been
Yep.
caught in these defense mechanisms and I'm actually self-sabotaging and
Yep.
cutting off the universe from helping me, cutting off luck from being able to come into my life. And when you take this, I think for me, the name The Playroom, and I talk a lot about the archetype of the fool. And for me, the fool has been a really healing archetype for me and a lot of my friends. You're actually opening yourself up to saying, okay, I'm open to freshness. I'm open to newness. I'm open to what's arising now, as opposed to these patterns that are playing in me. And of course, you need the magician to go back there and to heal and to clean things up to allow you to step into the fool.
Yes.
But also just activating the fool, even if you're still dealing with some of these defense patterns, can be really helpful to just say, actually, maybe that's not that important right now. What's arising now? What's happening now? That's from then happening now. And the fool is Teflon. I think of it as a non-stick pan. Like nothing can stick to the fool. But
Yes.
there is also, I think, real, that's one part of the solution. I think going back down there and actually freeing up the energy, this because this is wired into us. It's like you can't
Right.
even stop your mind from doing this stuff. How do we actually go in there and start to loosen up these contractions, loosen up these defense mechanisms, and free up that energy?
Nice. So something that's I mentioned three things. I mentioned the third one. This is the thing
Right.
we started talking about, reference points. I started getting this with the Tibetans. They were saying like, hey, you're always referencing trauma or something from the thing, and they have tools to evoke this unbound energy. They don't actually call it. They actually now call it something called emptiness practice. Now, emptiness just means openness. Some people these practices can be used in a lot of ways, and some are more productive than others. But to me, the best way to use emptiness is to almost like giving yourself permission to everything with fresh eyes. Anything can be perceived through many different perspectives. So if you cultivate a practice of when the first perspective that comes up, it's automatically open, meaning it's not necessarily true. Because if you think most of us think our first thought or feeling or sensation is the truth and we're fused to it and we just stuck in those patterns. But if you can get some distance, oh, it's just a possibility. And then you allow this free energy. This is another way to get the free energy. So it's not always stillness, just allowing each moment to be fresh and new and open stimulates this unbound energy to have this novelty. So one reference point is seeing things as open so we can get more unbound energy. But actually, you can reference, as we did in the opening of the show with the energy exercise, a future possibility where everybody wins. And it just plants that seed in your mind of the optimism. And it turns out it's just about directing of the energy. So when you do that, the spirit, the part of your consciousness, you're basically constructing your own mind. Your mind then, it's a shamanic thing because what it'll do, it'll be like, okay, this person wants to live this epic life up here where you could even label or give it some qualities like we were doing. Like when I say my best life, I'm healthy. I have awesome relationships. If you're looking for romantic relationships or great friends or a work that I enjoy that allows me to give back to humanity, adventure, what I call peace and multidimensional, peaceful soul. And I'm living with other peaceful people and we're doing good things in the world. So like multidimensional, what the spirit will do, you're almost shamanically saying, give me the experience, creating a gap. So a gap is, okay, you're probably not living that life to its fullest. And some people think I just want to be there, but actually you don't. What you want to do is have a journey, because once you're there, then you're just going to eventually you're going to get bored of that and you're going to want something else. So you're going to be going on another journey after that. So you might as well pick a cool something that really inspires you and enjoy the process. So if I had another big thing is you could bitch out about how life actually works, or you could be like, holy shit, I don't even know how I exist. And somehow in a body, nobody knows that. Nobody will ever answer that question, because anytime you come up with an answer, you'd be like, create a god or whatever. You're like, I don't know. It's magic. So the magician, the fool, dude, it's magic. You're a magical being just like me. My story is everyone's magical god just talking to itself to know what it means to be alive. And that how you feel about yourself is tends to be like how you feel about others. So if you think you're magical God, not like the God, but like a God as part of a God team to figure it out together, then everyone else is that beautiful thing too. But here's the thing is when we do these defense patterns, we tend to like make up something nasty about ourselves, and then we don't want to feel it. It's like a lot of these defense patterns are to cover up we don't like ourselves. And so then if we can't feel I don't like ourselves, we'll start projecting that out. I want to get vulnerable. For a long time, I didn't realize that I was suppressing that I didn't like myself, that I felt like I was a loser and that I wanted to die. And I had to figure out why was that. So this was getting into groundedness, because just to be vulnerable, like things happened to me. I didn't have a perfect life. When I was a little kid, there was a point where a friend we were wrestling and started beating me up and he pulled down my pants and it was very traumatic, and basically I suppressed that memory until I was way older. And it turned out that after that, I got really spacey because like some part of me didn't want to remember it. Because I didn't want to remember that memory, it was almost like it created like this ADD. It was almost like the cause of being like spacey and or exacerbated some. Anyways, but what happened was like then I couldn't be present like playing t-ball. Like so whatever sport, I was just spaced out. And then I really like sports, but then all the kids noticed I sucked because I was a space cadet and they start picking me last, and it dropped my self-esteem a lot. And like all of us have stuff like that. Nobody escapes childhood with a perfect thing, even, and that's okay. We can have compassion with that. But the great news is you can actually, every big wound comes with a superpower.
That's right.
So what this is getting into archetypes, because I know you wanted to talk about archetypes. So let's connect defense patterns and archetypes, because this is one of the most important things you can know. The way you defend yourself, you start viewing life through a particular lens. Okay. And it's like, and the Buddhists would call it like particularizing. And that's going to lead to your greatest strengths and your greatest weaknesses. So for example, one of my primordial defense pattern, there's this book called The Five Personality Patterns by Stephen Kessler. You have that book, a great book, epic. So I have my top personality pattern is leaving. So leaving people tend to go in their head. They get spacey, but they also are visionaries, and some of them think a lot. So they have a lot of thinking capacity. Some of them like see a lot of subtle energies. They get really into the subtle, and all that stuff's like useful. And then so as I started cleaning up the wounds and feeling the feelings, I was able to get more present. My mind got more peaceful. I got rid of the ADD meds. And then I started digesting my experience in the now. I actually had a Crohn's disease, which is like an autoimmune disease about digestion. And it was, again, I wasn't digesting my experience. And then as I started feeling all my feelings, remembering these traumas, then I got off that medication too. All my digestion works fine. You don't need the meds. All the body is connected to deep in your mind. So if you
Yes.
focus on the high leverage things,
Yeah.
you can all this stuff's going to give you more energy. These few tips here can get you on this unconventional path. This is not stuff they teach you in school, and this will lead you to a better life than a lot of the other stuff that you're not going to say everything I learned in school sucked. The best stuff I learned was later.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that you went vulnerable and you shared some of that grounded wisdom.
Thanks.
And yeah, there's so much there. I have some intuitive methods that I've gone into this,
Mhm.
some shamanic methods I've done on myself, but I would love to hear and just share out what did you actually do? Because it seems like what's
Mhm.
stopping us as a collective and as individuals from manifesting a higher reality, a reality of
Mhm.
abundance, creativity, openness to surprise and flow and play. It
Hmm.
seems like it's these unconscious defense mechanisms. Maybe that at a time did help us, maybe at some stage of culture,
Yes.
maybe at some stage of our life, that defense mechanism helped us conform, helped us get
Hmm.
a job, helped us make peace with our parents or with our partner, whoever it is.
Hmm.
But now maybe they're getting in the way of our further growth. Maybe now they're causing bodily disease to us. Maybe now they aren't needed anymore. Or maybe the thing that they're keeping us in is actually holding us back. Even if it's needed for that thing, maybe we need to let go of that thing.
Right.
What did you do specifically? And that can maybe serve as a metaphor or as a guide for
Hmm.
a symmetric process that needs to happen collectively for us to move.
Right. I'm getting to share a story, and then if you're interested in, I could help you with something. I could show you something I would do with my clients so that people could get like a grounded reality of what it looks like.
I would love to
All
hear.
right. All right. My spirit is saying I'm getting intuitively to focus on parts. Like we all have these kind of parts and narrative. So parts and stories hold everything in place. We haven't really talked about this a lot. And my spirit's saying bring in a little bit of ayahuasca, like a little psychedelics. When both of us work with people with medicine, I've that's so I'm going to talk to you about my very first experience with ayahuasca. Okay. Now, ayahuasca,
Let's
my
go.
experience with psychedelics is they work really particularly well if you are dialed into what's going on with you and what you need. The more precise the question, the better the spirit can answer. These psychedelics are energy. And you direct the energy. When you direct the energy intelligently, you get really good answers. So my very first question was, Dear ayahuasca, I'm thinking all the time, can you help me feel? And so I drink a cup, my stomach gets really upset, which happens. And I'm like, oh man, this sucks. And then right away, like it almost activates what I call the metacognition, the part of us that kind of is hovering above us. And it said, "Hey, Jonathan, I thought you just told us you can't feel. Now you're telling me you're feeling like stomach. I call bullshit. Let go of your story." So it was like literally saying, all right, it's like, okay. So like right away, it was saying, let go of the story you can't feel because it was saying that's not true. But then and something else happened. Then I noticed because the energy was more focused up here, and I directed on one question. I heard the story pop out. It said, "Oh man, this." Pain sucks so super terrible. I want to leave my putting my attention here and I want to go into my head where I feel a lot safer. And so as soon as I saw that, I was like, whoa, because I never had seen that kind of subtle energy, the subtle parts talking to each other. And the illumination of the ayahuasca experience allowed me to see that I was doing that. And something inside me, I knew I was doing that all the time in the background. So now that it something that was in the subconscious and I made it conscious, I could actually have a dialogue with it. So I talked to the part. I was like, dear part, okay, I get it. In the past, as a kid, I got overwhelmed with stuff and I went to the head. It's not serving me really right now. I'm not as present. I'm not as focused. Vulnerably, I'll say, if I had to get one feedback when I was in the earlier part of my life, when I was working with the ladies, they were like, I want to see more in your heart, Jonathan. You're thinking all the time. I know you're really smart and stuff, but show me girls like feelings. And not that I didn't feel, but it was like that being in tune with your feelings. I didn't realize how I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna come back to that. Let's come back to feelings and emotions, and I have a totally different story about them than I used to. But let's finish this part first, because so I started talking to this part. I was like, dear part, I want to have a different relationship with you. I know in the past you always jumped into my head, and I don't want you to do that anymore. I want to actually feel the feelings. I want to get all the information with it. I just pleaded with it. I know how old was I? I must have been in my mid 40s when this happened. I was like, all right, I'm sure this program's been there for like my entire life. I know you don't have any reason to believe me, but I'm telling you, I'm different. I'm a different soul. Like I just said, give me a different experience. I'm ready to change this relationship. Okay. And I'm getting to share what happened with the second cup because this is how I want to talk about how shamanism really works on the ground in relation to parts work. So I take cup number two and really made me want to vomit. And I remember it was big room. There were a lot of people there. It was a big group, and I puked a little bit. and I was like, feel like I had more to do, and everyone was like, Jonathan, because like when you puke, other people around you they start to want to puke,
Oh
and they're like,
yeah.
don't do it around the people if you can. So they were like, hey, there's a place outside you can go puke. Can you go puke outside? Everyone was do it. So I was like, all right, I'll honor my spiritual buddies here, and I'll finish the puking outside. So this is a crazy story. I literally go outside, and it's a crazy rainstorm, not just drizzling, like literal thunder and lightning, like buckets. And so I take a couple steps out, and I'm like, I gotta honor my spiritual buddies, and I get dumped on with water, and then I turn around. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. And then for some reason, I'm on ayahuasca, so it's like the story with the in my head. I get this experience. It's like, no, you have a chance here, Jonathan, to make a statement. The universe is like you just said. You're gonna make a deep change at the core of your being with your highest defenseman that's keeping you safe. Make a statement. I knew it was irrational, irrational. It's like, go out there and puke outside and in the rain and show that you're serious. Like it's called a spiritual initiation. I don't know if your fans know about this, but this is where it gets like a fun game if you know what it looks like. So you get a lot of good stories. So then I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I got to do it. So I'm going out there, and I just remember like getting half out there, and it's just raining on me. I'm just getting dumped, and some part of me is like, should I do this? Should I not? Maybe I don't have to puke. I'm like talking to myself, and I don't know. I was out there for like a long time, just like trying to get out to the spot. At one point, I ducked into a shed for shelter, and I hit a knife. I cut myself. I was like bleeding, like nothing like I'm gonna die, but just like to add a little drama to the story, like literally. And then I eventually got to this like tiki torch, and it was pouring, and I eventually did hurl out there. But I remember just like lying on the ground, and some part of me is good. You backed up your story that you're serious, that you're gonna do this deep work, and you're committed. Now that part, you've got that part's attention, because before you did that, it was like, hey, yeah, sure, you want to do it. And I remember like walking back, and the last part of the story is that the person, some person was watching me like the whole time, and she was like, "Whoa, dude, what happened? What was that like?" And I was just like, therapeutic.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really set the energy for the rest of that healing to happen to eventually move operating from that. So those kind of spiritual initiations are part of the process, and it's good to know what success looks like. It's reprogramming. You notice this is the reprogram. We have parts of us that we created as kids. And if we want to take radical responsibility for our life, we can't be all victim. Oh, my parents caused this. But yes, you as a kid decided to make this program. You as an adult can unprogram it and live your most epic life and be really present and make great choices. Anyways, I'll stop there for a second and see what you have to say.
It's happening. The spell as at the beginning, it's in full effect. I feel
Yeah.
it for sure. For sure, I feel it, man. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because I really feel this in me. I feel like there are times where, trying to think of a specific instance, nothing's coming to mind right now, but there are times where you ask for insight, or I've asked for insight in the Lakota
Uh-huh.
tradition. They call it crying out for a vision. And
Yep.
you go out there in front of the Great Spirit and you make yourself pitiful in some sense, bring yourself to the end by either fasting, intense exercise,
Hmm.
sweating, or whatever it is. You put yourself at the end of the rope and you show,
Hmm.
yo, out here, I'm committing to you. I'm showing you that I care, that I'm here. And
Yeah.
you come down and tell me something, teach me something. And then the thunderbolt that comes, or when the Great Spirit emerges, or when the teacher emerges, at least in my experience, they always just tell you the things you just don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, that cave that you've been avoiding, that thing you thought this was going to save you from, you got to go in there, motherfucker. You got to go
Yeah.
in there. And you're like, fuck. Like, the whole reason I did this because I thought you were going to wipe that away or destroy the cave.
Right.
Nah, that's where you got to go. And it really just, I think for me, it's been a process of deepening faith because the first time you do it,
Mm.
especially after not having done it your whole life and your whole life having been, your mind was saving me. I had
Yes.
many experiences like this in childhood as well. I didn't fit in at the first school that I went to, had poor relationships with people. I was from a Persian family. It was a Catholic school. Everyone else
Mm.
was Catholic. They would go to communion and eat the wafer, and God would bless them. And I'd be sitting alone in the rafters. And my mom would bring me our own organic
Hmm.
lunch. The other kids thought I was weird. And we were doing all this world travel and stuff, and everyone else thought that was just super weird. They would go to summer, they would do whatever, and my mom was teaching me about the Gini index of the inequality in Rwanda, and other kids thought it was really stupid. And when you're a kid, you don't realize, wow, I'm learning about the world. I'm learning about human beings. I'm some loser. My mom keeps pulling me out of fucking class, take me to fucking Antarctica. I don't give a shit. I want to be with my friends and play and
Right.
soft guns and play video games. And so
Yeah.
that was hard, always feeling like the outcast. And yeah, always just, I'm 24. I'm here doing the shaman stuff. I've always been thinking about other things and always been interested in other things that seemed a little arcane or esoteric for
Mhm.
those around me. And I got, I think, ridiculed for that a lot. And so my mind, like you said, was really my escape. I could dream of a fantasy world. I could dream of a future world in which people like me were accepted. I could dream about a fantasy land in which I was the hero. Everything went my way. And I think that got me to do some really amazing stuff. I started a company when I was 14. I started
Wow.
companies before I was 20. And I think that visionariness, it's what got me to dream,
Hmm.
to attempt things. But it was, I think, always ultimately rooted in running away from the now and running
Mm.
away from being the weird guy now. It's like,
Yeah.
if I do this company, I'll be the cool guy later. And then everyone will think, that I'm a cool guy and I can have the girlfriend that I want and I can be interested in the things that I'm interested in and I can think about a new society and no one's going to think I'm fucking crazy and I can dress the way I want and I can be the way I want, blah, blah, blah. But it was always a future thing. And I think when I started going on this process of healing and I started to do the shamanic work and I started to get
Mhm.
into the healing is here now, buddy. If
Yeah.
you want to wear makeup, you got to wear makeup now. If you want to really create a new earth and that's what you want to do, you got to say that at the dinner party now. like
Yeah.
like you got to tell your friends who don't understand that this is what you're doing in your life and you're dropping out of Stanford and your parents who are Persian immigrants who have done the conventional thing are like, what the fuck are you doing? And you have to show up to that and stand up to that. And it takes faith. It takes that faith in that
Yeah.
intelligence of, okay, I'm not going crazy. I am going towards a fuller me that I was defending against. And it's scary, but this is what I needed. And I think it just takes cycles. It just takes cycles of being like, of showing up in going into the cave,
Mm.
right? And then coming out the other side and feeling so much better and lighter and really vomiting out all this shit that you thought was making you full, but was actually
Mm.
making you sick.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just wanted to share that and share, yeah, just that fear, that real
Hmm.
fear of, oh no, what if I let this go? What if I let go of this life raft that's been saving me? Chief, that life raft has been fucking hurting you. And people, it's that narrative is what's causing you the problem, right?
Yeah. And just for people to know, you don't have to just let it, if it's deeply rooted, you're probably not going to let it go in like one session or one thing. It's a process.
Right.
And so to lighten people with it, but also I think you said something that's really important that I really want. It's about having faith and also like seeing this better world, but being with truth. Like life has patterns and they're real. There are some patterns that are just universal, metaphysics, right? Or archetypes, this shadow. And if we're gonna run away from that, you're gonna stay stuck at a certain level of development. And for those of us who not only have understood it with our minds, but then actually are being it, we're creating a groove to make it easier for other people. So the more of us who tell the stories and how we did it and what are the things to avoid, here are the best practices, the easier it is going to be for everyone else. So I want to invite people into a new narrative about life. I believe this with every fiber of my being that we are meant to maybe almost finish what they started in the 60s about this happy community where we're all getting along and every life's a gift. They started something and we can finish it now. Look, there's technology out there. A lot of people are afraid of AI or robots. I think they're our friends. I don't understand this fear thing. If they get too powerful, I'm throwing water on them. I'm unplugging them. I don't know what I don't know what this thing is. They're going to take over the world. The greatest consciousness is consciousness itself. Like the greatest AI, I'm saying, is actually consciousness itself.
Right.
Consciousness has AI qualities to it, and it created the robot. So there's no way it's going to get consumed by it. That's a BS narrative. But I actually see a convergence. So what I'm seeing is more of us are getting this unbound energy and tapping into our own consciousness AI, and we're going to have certain things that we just don't really want to do anymore. And the robots or the AI is going to make a lot of the tasks that were just tedious
Right.
easier, and everything's going to get easier. And we're at this transition point where we see the potential. It's definitely not there yet, but some of us are crossing over. And those of us who are early or even early on that path, you could look at it through the lens of, oh, it sucks, not everyone's there. Or it could be like, hey, I get to be part of a spiritual revolution that changes the vibration of the planet from scarcity to abundance during my lifetime. What a great time to descend on Earth. Like, what if you just celebrated, you saw that vision, and you realize that you are a key cog, you and your peers can collaborate and play a small piece in the puzzle. When I was talking to the higher powers, one of the most important things, ego is a complicated word, but let's just say it's like sense of self. That sometimes we get some part of me wants to be like Superman and do everything. And my spirit's like, always is this lesson, Jonathan, stay in your lane. Each, there is what I call the collective metacognition. One of my teachers, Johnny Epstein, calls it like the weaver, the part
Mhm.
that brings people together.
Mhm.
That's that we upload and download information to. It's a real thing. It's part of reality. I'm what's called a
Very cool.
non-dual teacher. I think everything's God, including that. Some people just consider that God, but I think that's just a piece of God. I think we're all acting as one kind of unit. And what was I going to say about that? About focus. Each of us has a unique gift, a new thing that can be birthed through us, either individually or collectively, probably both. And when you part of this spiritual journey is for us is to, and this is getting to this grounded place is for each soul to find what the Japanese call the ikigai. The ikigai is that thing that you got a lot of passion for, whatever. It just gets you super happy. You're actually good at it, and because you're passionate about it and you're good at it, you could be great at it. And the world needs like right now. I believe that there is something like that for everybody, and so you could actually make your quote unquote work or your income source play. Like we're talking about getting back to play. How do we play is well, and you could be like, oh, I don't have that right now, so it's not play. Well, or you could make the process of getting there part of your play. If this is, I'm gonna, all right, this is one of my most important nuggets. I said this before, but here's maybe number two. If you fall in love with the process of life, you'll enjoy life a lot better. The more you love life, the more life loves you back. It's just something I've discovered. And it's okay if you don't feel that way. What if you actually were okay with feeling those feelings? Because if you're pushing away a feeling that you don't like, it's going to make more of it. So if you just accept it's there, then you can actually then move off of it. So with that in mind, I want to get back to the thing I said earlier. Is there something I'm getting something fast, but let's say you could have come out of this right now in
Yeah.
just a few minutes, have a breakthrough that you didn't think was possible. What's
Yeah.
something that's like hot for you? Something, a pattern, maybe you're having trouble, a feeling. Is there something like that's hot for you? Just trust your first instincts.
There is something that's hard for me. I'm afraid of becoming a cult leader. I'm
Okay.
afraid of getting lost in playing with these intense energies. I'm afraid. Do you know who Travis Scott is?
Mm, I don't know. The name sounds familiar, but I don't know
Yeah.
specifically.
He's a rapper. I
Huh?
grew up with him and his music, and he's one of my kind of major inspirations. And in some ways, was a shamanic teacher for me. Even
Hmm.
he doesn't call himself a shaman.
Yeah.
And he is able to really tap into this really powerful lower chakra energy and
Hmm.
tap into this kind of primal energy that a lot of us have got out of touch with these days. And as a culture, we're very afraid of these days. And mainly we're just trying to regulate with laws and technology. But it's an energy in us, these low, darker powers that need to be this animal inside that need
Mm.
activated. And I think part of, like you said, we're talking about birthing this new world. If we're going to birth
Hmm.
this new world, it's going to require that animal, right? We're going
Hmm.
to integrate that animal. We can't just
Yeah.
create this new earth from the head,
No.
right? We can't just create this new earth from the heart. That's what we tried to do in the 60s.
Hmm.
And it turns out that if a bunch of people are just kumbaya loving each other and no one's paying the taxes and no one's defending the resources, you can't
Yeah.
create the new earth. You need all level, all everything, all
Yeah.
architectural.
Yeah.
One of those very powerful level things that are needed is the strong, intense, fiery, masculine energy and
Right.
these forces of desire. I really want this. I
Yep.
want this new world. I want this utopia, and I'm willing to fight for it and go for it. If we don't have access to that energy, we're not going to be able to do it. And so I'm aware of the fact that I'm someone who in my life can activate that energy in people. I have
Mm.
the dark shaman power, and I've had visions of myself in previous lives, and this seems to be the role that I've played across lifetimes, is
Okay.
preparing warriors for war as the
Okay.
shaman, like getting them into the state of frenzy, the
Okay. I
berserker,
can see that.
getting the warriors into the state of victory before it even happens. So when the
Yes.
battle occurs, it just happens in front of you, and we're leading from that place of instinct, and the animal within just comes through and does it through us. And we
Mm.
because that's where victory comes from in battle. And that's where victory is going to come from in this coming, ideally not physical,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual battle for the future of our species. And
Okay.
the problem is, Travis Scott unlocked this energy, but it got, I think, a bit seduced by it and didn't
Mm.
recognize its power and the responsibility that comes with accessing that power
Uh-huh.
and got lost, I think, in a little bit of the showbiz and the lights and the
Mm-hmm.
sponsorship. And 10 people ended up dying at one of his concerts
Oh
uh,
my God.
at the peak of his popularity
Okay.
because his energy wasn't managed
Got
properly.
it.
And I think I have a fear in me that if I start really tapping into this energy and actually using my full power, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is talking about integral theory, breathing deeply, is actually getting people into this state of awe and
Mm-hmm.
openness and frenzy where they can dare to dream about this future world and this future
Yeah.
earth, dare to go through the hardships and the fear that comes from birthing a new reality. If I
Mm-hmm.
step into that, it's gonna, and if it works, right, it's gonna attract girls, it's gonna attract followers who think it's great, it's gonna attract all the classic human shit that it brings
Mm-hmm.
with it. And I'm afraid that I will succumb to that and that I won't be able to hold this energy and that I will fuck up and hurt our movement and hurt our uh,
Okay.
process of evolution as a species.
All right.
Maybe that's too big.
No, it's not too big. You mentioned you read you said you've been reading some of the five personality patterns book.
I have it. Jeff Fitch gave it to me, but I haven't read it yet.
Okay. I'm gonna evoke something from that. Just based on what you're saying, do you find yourself as somebody who's really independent and can do things on your own?
I'm poor at practical intelligence often, but
Uh,
I'm very good in the spiritual realms and in sense making in that way.
okay. So I'm getting to stick with it. This is me using my intuition about how to, what do you do to manage stress? What do you do?
Often I dance, sing, and I try to get embodied usually.
Okay. So dancing, so movement gets
Yeah,
you out of it.
music,
Okay. Okay. Good. All right.
expression, basically just expression in the body.
Okay. All right, maybe I'll go in that direction. I got an idea that's really going to help you and show your audience how do we ground your energy in a productive way. All right, we're going to do a couple experiential exercises. I'm going to ask you some more questions, and I'm going to show you a way that will help you understand why, if you did things a certain way, they might go in that direction, and why I'm going to show you how to master it another way. Okay, we're going to do an experiential test, a really fast one. I want you to take your hands like this and put it over your heart. And I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to just notice what's it like for you to be right in this position. Because what words come up? What is your energy like? Just go off the top of your head.
Excited. I'm a little nervous. I'm grateful. I'm faithful. I'm surprised.
Okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is like super energy rich and 1 is energy poor, where are you?
9. Feel really
Okay.
energized.
You feel energized. Okay. Great. All right. Come present. And now let's put your hands up and out and keep your eyes like wide open and put your eyeballs like your conscious way outside of you. What does it feel like to be in this position?
More open, smaller, in
Hmm.
an awe sort of way, like aware of that which is bigger.
How energized are you?
I'm super energized.
Yeah. Same, less more than before?
Maybe an 8.
Okay. Do you feel held in this position?
I
Or
think
what?
I
It's
think
okay. I don't want to put suggestions, but it's just
I think I feel more ready
more ready.
than held.
Okay. Ready for what?
I don't know. I don't know. I think
Put your
that's
hands down for a sec.
yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of energy in both. That's a spatial test. I want to do a time test. Okay. Put your hands like this,
Wow, that
and
actually
I want you to take, who was that?
tingling my
Just
hand.
down like this row. Yeah, pick one here. Let's just say the left one, put it a little bit higher, which would be up. Okay. So this is going to represent 3 years from the future, and this is going to represent you now. And I
3 years.
want you to focus on this. So the one that's higher is going to represent you taking a perspective of you in the future, and the other one's going to take a perspective of now. And so you have this fear about being, some things, a lot of negative things, these dark energies, these strong energies are going to use you in a way that's not gonna serve. Okay, good. That's so now if you're coming from the past and to now, what is your relationship to that? It could be the thing you just said, but just I want to give you a chance to just speak that voice, that part.
The voice that's coming to this
It's
now.
coming from the past right into now. Oh yeah, I'm getting all this higher power, isn't this scaring shit out of me?
Right.
Is that kind of the narrative? Or is there anything else you want to add?
There is something I would add, which is I think that's why I've gone on this journey for the last 4 years, especially these last 2 years, and why I've been in
Mhm.
isolation in my house as opposed to being out there in the world, and why I've been reluctant to play because I didn't feel like I was tall enough to ride. And now I do feel I'm tall enough to ride, and I actually need to start because I'm going crazy being alone.
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
need to start putting this energy into the world. But there's also that old voice. It's not as strong as it used to be because I think I have developed, but there is
yeah,
that voice saying we haven't ever been in these situations and we don't know what it will actually do when we're in them.
fair enough.
There is a,
Let's go the other hand. This is you 3 years from now. What does he want to tell you now? Was the story come from that guy?
I think that we made some mistakes, but we needed to learn them, that they guided us to deeper wholeness, and that the fact that I'm thinking about this now and that I'm conscious of it and I continue to be conscious of it is what ultimately makes it so that it doesn't happen.
Okay. Can you put your hands down? Can you notice that the hand from the future had more energy to it, had more better, wiser perspective?
Yeah.
So that tells me is that you, particularly time-wise, resonate with a higher wisdom. And remember, we talked about energetics in the beginning.
Right.
Remember, we talked, we're going to tie a couple things together here. When you go back from the past, you're going to start surfacing things through these lenses that they're causing you the projections, the trauma. But when you start focusing on the future, you're going to get a higher vibration perspective. So one of the things you can do is be aware of that. And that alone can shift things. So we're going to tie it in with what the Buddhists do, and we're going to do something. I'm going to give you a little bit of a guided meditation that helps make it sticky. So really, the key for you is when these fears come up. Is to make it a reminder. These thoughts, feelings, perceptions. First off, all thoughts, feelings, perceptions are automatically they're just energy, and they're based on your energy level. So if you want to get another sticky, like this is something everybody needs to know, this is something I tell all my clients, is this decree. Decrees are conscious language. This is about putting code. Remember we talk about recoding your mind? Every person, this is something that's universally true. You can test it out yourself, but whatever you're thinking, feeling, decision is dependent on your energy level. And if you know what energizes you, you are more energized when you think about the future. So when you are referencing the past, like your lenses are referencing the past, you're going to bring up that fear guy. So that you could either get seduced by it and keep sucking in, or you can make it your best friend. You can be like your reminder to go, oh shit, I'm looking in the past. I just need to remember to focus on the future, and my perspective will shift. And if you keep practicing that, eventually that'll just be you just know it so coldly. Even if that fear came up, you'd be like, ah, whatever, silly fear
Yeah.
guy. I just know I need I need to get some energy up, maybe do some jumping jacks, look to the future, whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that complicated. Well, why don't we just do one quick thing to get it into your system? I want you to put your left hand up, and we're gonna do something like we did with a bundle. So basically, I want you to be now, just remember all of a sudden you're having these fear thoughts like, oh shit, I'm gonna screw things up. People are gonna get shot. I'm gonna be a cult leader. I'm gonna fumble, and I'm gonna screw up the whole movement. Whatever you think is your worst things. Now, I want you to, every time you're aware of it, think about, oh, this is an opportunity me to not take it seriously. It just means I am now in a low energy state. I'm opposite my energy way. I'm focused on the past, and I want you to see yourself suddenly noticing that you're doing it. Your observer's like, hey, all right, you're doing that thing. Stop it. Okay. And now pick your other hand up. And your intelligence is telling you, then your soul intelligence is going to say, hey, the thing you got to, you can't just, that's step one, but step two is to actually get into a higher energy state. Just focus on the future. Get yourself outside of your body. Focus on coming from a wiser part of you. It'll tell you the truth about what's going on, and that'll quench the fear all by itself. So now we're just going to bring these two command codes. We're going to sandwich them too. This is 10, this is 20. We're going to go back and forth. We're going to bring these things together. We're going to bring in, hey, I'm noticing I'm in fear. Oh yeah, I need to just focus on the future, and then I'll forget. Remember that fear thought is total BS. Back and forth. 3, 2, 1. Now our consciousness. This is a line of code, and it's an important line of code because a lot of times these fears are really primordial. So let's imagine that your input, your computer screen, is your consciousness or your field of awareness. So let's say this is because it's a really important code. I want you to stick it really high up into your code, into your thing, and you just imagine you're plugging it in there, and there's a certain spot that it feels right in. And if you ever, because you're like putting it into your consciousness and you're always with your consciousness, it sticks there. So just imagine it's there, and maybe see like a light coming from the divine coming through that spot and into your third eye. And it's reminding you, don't take your fears seriously. Always check from a future oriented perspective if you're getting caught up in it, because it's probably just something from the past that you need to see as empty, see as open, and get a healthier perspective on. So it doesn't have to be that hard. How long did that take? Like 10 minutes. And sometimes you can do that anytime you want. You got the recording here. Sometimes when I'm with my clients, I'll give them a voice recording. I'll just send it to them, whatever. You listen to that 2 minutes a couple times a day. You do it for a month, you'll never forget it. You know what I mean? You could change a pattern like that. It doesn't have to take
Really
forever with these new
difficult.
technologies. What was that
I
like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sensitive person, so this stuff touches me deeply. That's the shamanoid. And yeah, I feel like I felt at one point I felt like lightning come down from the
Wow.
crown, come down in and come down through the body and down my legs and just a full re-energizing. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt the fear body like crack and exploded off by the new energy.
Nice.
I think this field of belief and energy of abundance and of faith like just shattered this kind of dense, heavy, kind of like crunchy, crickly auric field that was around me of this fear, and this contraction was just released. And I feel really abundant right now, really open, really energized.
Cool. Sorry, someone walked in my room and I was like, I'm in a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing that you did that. I'd love to, if you're open to this and you can do this with your audience, is you do these energy bundles with they're like intention setting, and
Yeah.
then you take like a psychedelic and you like use that as you almost touch that spot as it's like coming on. It's, hey, help me with this fear thing. It'll give you a shamanic experience that'll deepen that code.
Yeah. I think that's something that I'm going to do before I move. I'll go do a journey with this.
Nice.
Yeah. It's so crazy. The synchronicity of this happening is really crazy, honestly, because I recorded a voice memo the other day from a place of fear, from a place
Mhm.
of fear that I was going to send to two of my friends about, yo, you need to watch me and catch me if I start going
Mhm.
down this path. But it was really from the consciousness of fear. And when my higher self came online, and it was actually after our first call, I had this moment
Mhm.
where I was getting into a higher energy state, and then I started becoming afraid of this, and I went into this fear body, and then my higher self caught me, and I was like, "Whoa, like why are we doing this from that place? And I started to integrate it, but this really, I just feel put me in a whole nother place. And it reminds me of deity yoga. I know you have a background in this, and this
Yeah,
is,
yeah, we'd be happy to talk about that.
yeah, this idea, just from my perspective, I'll put in one little thing, which is
Yeah.
if I can connect with the version of myself, if I can connect with the timeline in which, like we did at the beginning of this call, connect with the timeline of this call that goes amazingly. I
Hmm.
can timeline of Ari who doesn't do that, right? If I
Hmm.
can connect with his energy and use him as an archetype that I can draw
Hmm.
from and use him to guide me, as
Yeah.
using this archetype that's made by fear of me doing it and nudging myself subconsciously closer and closer to that thing by trying to avoid it. How do I actually
Hmm.
look at the healthy archetype that manifests everything from a place of abundance? How do I connect with that Ari and allow him to teach me backwards through time?
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. And just, yeah, it really helps shape the consciousness that these deity yogas or these using these reference points that put us in a frame of mind. It gets the mindset game right, and the mindset leads because the mind, everything is filtered through the mind. So if you do you want to be filtering things through fear or through confidence? So that's a big deal. That's cool that you're doing that. Yeah.
This was wow. Yeah, I feel like heat in my face, and yeah, that was amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
Sacred
So yeah,
amazing.
just so people know it doesn't. This is probably another thing I really want people, and I'd be curious to you can chime in on this too, is if you fall in love with this as a fun game, to gamify this is it changes everything. Like I'm imagining this world as like where we're all in it together and we're all like talking about our journeys. It's already happening, but I think there's going to be a spiritual movement where we're all leveling up and there's ways of calculating it because as you go through this process, you achieve more of this abundance. And I think you mentioned you threw out these words, lines, and levels from Ken Wilber, but we didn't really talk about what it means, but to ground it in like real things. So, for example, the more you feel like this fear from something terrible that happened, if I had some suppressed emotion from this childhood abuse thing that happened to me, the more I felt it, then afterwards I just felt more relaxed. So, like on my line of development of peaceful being, maybe I went from a level 4 to a level 6. And then here's another cool thing like I've done just to give you some ideas. Like I got like a long massage on a psychedelic, maybe just an edible or something, and it helped me relax. And then they like because sometimes the trauma is in the body, and
Right.
I released some more stuff. And then relaxation guy went up another one. And maybe because I'm more relaxed, my self-awareness goes up and my presence. So maybe my presence goes from like a 4 to a 6. And so we can actually gamify it where each as we're doing these different kinds of development, we can actually see we're just becoming a better person. And how do we have a better species? The individuals get better on the individual lines of development, but then there's also relational lines of development. So like how like getting triggers less. If I'm more relaxed, I'm guaranteed I bet and more present to what my actual triggers are and what I do, I'm more likely not to be in them. And so then that's going to make me a more fun person to be with, a more chill person. And then you could develop conflict resolution skills. And that could be a series of lines and levels like how well can you listen? How well can you do active listening, like where you're just asking questions and not versus like you balance something like inquiry and advocacy. So advocating for why you're right. And but if you balance that with asking curiosity, like how much maybe I don't know have all the truth. Maybe there's some humility thrown in there. And if I climb your what's called an organizational development, your ladder of inference, like how did you come to that conclusion? Rather than just being like, you're wrong, you're an idiot. How could you believe that? That's a lot of conversations. Look at our debates or something for president. They're like idiotic. It's embarrassing. Yeah,
There's
there's no dialogue. It's a circus show, literally.
really
And but we can do better, and we can actually use these lines and levels and measurement to actually track how we're doing, and it can we can get the validation that this dopamine hits rather than just somebody liking a silly cat video. What if we get you get dopamine hits from just being a better person, and we have a way of seeing how every moment there's actually an opportunity to grow and be with what is.
hell yeah. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. And
Yeah.
I think we
Well, you
all
say it's
just
a dream, but like I think we're speaking into an existence right now. And I'm an or professional organizer and I'm really good at these tools and I have ideas and I'm working on multiple ways. Like that people can work with me one-on-one. I have like courses that people can learn things. I'm also like I'm speaking into existence the new abundance industry. So we talked about deity yoga, got a deity right behind me.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, that's Ganesh. I won't get into there's a longer story when I was on ayahuasca where it was suggested that I work with him. And I align with him because he's about removing obstacles so we can have abundance. And when I work in my when I deity yoga, just for those who don't know, is you were saying, all right, is like where you put on a mask, you pretend you're the deity. You're not. The only thing that's real is your now, but you pretend to get the qualities out. And so the Ganesh in me is we have the tools to make abundance on earth right now. We have to focus on the things that actually work. There are certain lines and levels that will actually make the biggest difference in resolving conflict. I call it the three levels of resolving conflict. We're resolving our conflict with our marriage to God. What is this? Our parts work. Remember we talked about parts worker, and then the third one is like relational. And so if I had to take all this complexity and be like, hey, it's a confusing world. There's climate change. Bullshit. We get really good at conflict resolution. All those other problems are going to go away. And we know how to do that now. And one of the ways to do it is actually like right before you had a conflict talk, you actually everyone agreed that, hey, let's get the energy like we did today. And we agreed we're going to come up with a win solution. We're going to use our soul intelligence, our upper mind. We're not going to get stuck in just I'm right and you're wrong. No, we're going to maybe use some compassion and some listening. Like maybe I don't understand why you have that view. Maybe there's a reason why you have that perspective. And I'm so caught up in why I feel this way. And if we swap stories and take our time, there's I had in my last romantic relationship, one of the most important things, here's another great gold tip, is me and my girl made an agreement. If we weren't like we numbered our energy levels, and if we weren't like at least high neutral, energy rich, we were not going to talk about anything that was controversial or conflict. We're like, all right, if both of us are like energy neutral, low neutral, poor, and we start getting into these things, it just makes it worse. So
Makes
why
it
do
way
that?
worse.
So that saved a lot of energy, and it's just smart. So I'm here to spread best practices.
No, that's so beautiful. And this is something I've seen visions of many times is this. We had the Constitutional Congress to come up with the United States, where you
Hmm.
got all the different guys, basically dudes that ran the different states come together in a room and kind of enter into this collective field
Yeah.
and try and crystallize it into something. And I think what we need this time is like a planetary Congress where we bring together all the different people, all the different stakeholders, different ages, the elders, the young
Hmm.
people, the different humans from the different cultures as well as the different animals, and even invoke, like you said, the higher intelligences and our
Hmm.
ancestors and our descendants and create this field together. And from that place, crystallize something, but from that place of abundance and from that place of having all those energies present with us. And I think something that I've become really aware of is this idea. For the first realization is this idea of play, right? That we need to do
Hmm.
this play.
Yep.
That's a way forward. But then the second realization is also what you were just getting at, which is we actually need to be ready to play and we need to be
Hmm.
skilled enough to play, right? Energy
Hmm.
wise, we need to be in a place of
Yeah.
high energy and abundance so that we can actually come back from a failure. We can actually
Hmm.
come from the frustration of the tower crumbling in the middle of the, or the energy we invested in something not hitting and not landing. We need actually high energy, high capacity to be able to
Hmm.
try again and again. We need high energy to
Yeah.
hold
Great.
perspective,
Yeah.
right? Like holding your perspective and my perspective literally takes more energy in the body than just holding my perspective.
Yes. Yes. Said.
You're very low. You can call this vibration, you can call this frequency, but this is what happens
Hmm.
when I've done shamanic journeys and taken psychedelics is you get this huge boost of energy. And I feel like I can hold the perspectives of everyone, the daffodils and the dandelions and the humming.
Hmm.
Everyone has a place.
Yeah.
Whereas I've done reverse shamanistic stuff where I'm trying to go to the brink of death. And that is
Hmm.
illuminating in the opposite way, in the sense that you see how many things you can't do. You see how many perspectives you can't hold and how many things are off the table. And it's really that
Yes.
cool realization of, whoa, when you're fasted and you haven't had water and you're strung out, you just can't do these things. And you learn that those things are real by the fact that you can't do them. And then on the other hand,
Hmm.
you enter these super high energy states and do these things that you didn't know you could do and learn them that way. And then you combine them to realize what's possible. And I just think so much of the problems we're going through individually, collectively right now are
Mhm.
something that you have a lot of experience in, which is this just this straight concept of energy. And the fact that a lot of us are tired, our relationships aren't holding us correctly, we're spending too much time indoors on our phones, we're not getting
Mhm.
recharged, we're a lot of young
Mhm.
men addicted to porn and are losing a lot of sexual energy that is a really
Yep.
powerful source of energy. And we're just tired and bored. And the new world needs to be created from this place of vitality and energy, mojo. And how do we, yeah, how do we, I guess the question I have for you is for me and for my friends who are
Mhm.
watching this, how do we become fit for service? How do we become ready to play? What doors do we start knocking on and what practices do we start doing that that will make us ready to be in service of New Earth?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, I think the first thing to do is rec start labeling your energy levels. So that's the thing I was just describing. Are you energy poor? Are you, which is you don't feel like to do anything, you feel like helpless. Maybe like you're low neutral where you're a victim, you're bitching about things, and everyone's it's not your fault, you're blaming everyone else. Or you're just kind of neutral where you're just going about your day, it's blah, you got enough energy to get some stuff done, but you're not like feeling super creative. Or you're like high neutral where you're like, okay, this is a good laugh, and your higher mind's getting going, you got more possibilities, or you're getting like energy rich or super rich, you're in a flow state. And realize that you don't always need to be in like a flow state. In fact, you're gonna get exhausted unless you're just like some super energy master. We all got to start off where we got to figure out what tasks do we really need the high energy states, and then how do we get there? What is your formula? Like for example, we noticed for you, you like to look into the future better, and a lot of people are like that. And so everyone has their own recipes for high energy and for low energy. So the more you become aware of them, and just the key is what task you doing and what energy level are you at? That would be the first thing. And then a higher level thing is I'm going on out with my friends for a concert. I want to bring a lot of enthusiasm and like consciously bring that up or bring that up in the group field. Or it's someone who's like someone's calling you and they're having a hard time. Maybe you want to bring in like something like compassion or sympathy, like where you can help understand them and help them feel like they feel met. So different situations require different energetics. So that's just getting starting the sensitive about what energetics are you bringing and then what are you doing. I'm offering a class in September. It's a 3-month class that specializes on this, where people figure out their formula for energy, for high energy and for low energy. And it shows how to use these energetics with altered states, whether it's psychedelics or breath works. Like during the course, we're going to have one class will be a breathwork session. We'll teach people how to prepare for it and how to integrate it. Because we didn't talk a lot about this yet, but
Right.
the psychedelic things is not just about taking a psychedelic.
That's
There's
right.
a process that really makes a difference. The more you know yourself, the more you're prepared. Also, how do you get the safety part down? How do you know like what part of the transformation process are you at? There are different stages of transformation. And if you're working with someone who can say, okay, you're here and this is the thing you need to deal with, that's going to get you to the next step, you're going to do way better than if you're just like going at it willy-nilly. And then
Exactly.
what are you going to do afterwards? So many people don't have an integration plan. Even like some of these top-notch shamans that are coming in from South America, like some are better than others, and a lot of them don't really include a full integration process. When I work with people, I'm like, okay, sometimes psychedelic sessions can be hard to understand. And then even if you did understand, what are you going to do differently? I know there's some people who go, I did 50 ayahuascas and I did 100. Who cares? How are you different? How are you showing up in the world different? It's all about integration and what are you doing with it? I'd
Yeah.
rather be with somebody who did it like once and like we had integrated something deep and made a change. And the number of times you did is irrelevant. It's
That's
who
right.
cares? It's not a contest. It's not somebody like said, hey, I just want to do as many cups as possible. I'm like, that's not the right kind of masculine energy to bring to it. You
No.
want to just meet the world with what it needs. It's better to have a precise thing that you're working on and allow you to get some new perspectives, some new insights on that, and then take that into your life. That would be like a home run rather than some people like talk about like DMT or something, they get all hung up on seeing clockwork elves or something like that. Okay, that can be interesting, but like literally you could act, that's available, and that shows maybe there's other dimensions of reality and some people need experience. I don't want to demonize it, but I'm telling you from my experience, you can actually just, you can be a better person, or you can understand how life works differently. There's like higher order questions than, hey, I just saw a bunch of colors and things spun around. I'm like, okay, that's okay. That's rookie stuff. It's not, I'm not making it bad, but I'm just saying there are, for those who want to use it for personal growth, to advance on their hero's mission, to get on the lines and levels, that's also possible. And I value growth a lot, so I prefer that. But
Me too.
so, anyways,
Yeah, that's amazing. I think, yeah, maybe I know maybe this is something that you do professionally. So this is getting into a place where this is something that you do for, I don't want you to give away your wisdom for free also because I
okay,
understand, you know,
yeah,
how,
go ahead. Yeah.
but in terms of integration, so preparation and integration, I have
Mm,
my own ideas, but this is something that's really interesting to me because I think I've become aware of the fact that, for me, a lot of this stuff is very intuitive. And when I
mm-hmm,
started the path, it came back to me. And I think
mm-hmm,
it's the first lifetime that I've been on a shamanic path. I started accessing higher states and entering into my higher mind and being able to
mm-hmm,
see some stuff from past lives. I started to get also a lot of intuitions again of,
mm-hmm,
oh, that's how we did it. And oh, this is what we got to do before. And a
mm-hmm,
lot just started coming through very naturally. But maybe a lot of us don't have that spiritual lineage. Maybe it's a little less intuitive to
mm-hmm.
us how we should prepare and how we should integrate and how to maybe
Yeah.
interpret some of the stuff that we saw. So could you share with us maybe some methods for preparation, for dealing with it while it's happening, and then for integration?
Yeah. So preparation, let's just say dial in your intention. Like what, ask a question. You could have some sort of a shift, something you're like, be honest with yourself. What are you really struggling with? It's like you want to not just struggle with, but you're ready to deal with.
Mm.
Some people are like, I'm dealing with this, but I don't really want to deal with it. I'm getting, for example, I got lots of clients, and one of them's like saying there's some things about his marriage that are troubling, but I'm not really ready to deal with that. He's saying, all right, that's fine. We'll deal with something else. So you got to pick something that's hot for you, that you're like, I'll do something about this. I'm willing to hear something new. Okay. And dial it in as specifically as you can. Don't pick too many intentions. In fact, if you're new to this, one's enough. Pick one thing that's going to be meaningful to you. I could come out of this. I can't. One good thing is like a pattern that you're stuck on, or something that you're stuck, that you feel like I need a little energy. I need some new perspectives. I need a shift. So that would be like preparation. And during it, safety is a big thing. There's always like, when the medicine's coming on, it's very common, even for experienced people, to get a lot of anxiety and new energy is taking you over. One decree I like to tell people is remind yourself this will end. It's like in the beginning, I'll just be like, this is a temporary state. This is a temporary state. It doesn't matter how tough it gets, it's gonna end. And so just starting in the beginning, just saying that over and over again will remind people to put their consciousness at ease. And as far as just one thing for integration, I'd say have someone who do you trust ahead of time, like that you're gonna talk to. If you're new to it, I wouldn't do it alone. So I would look for someone who's going to give you at least one integration session, or if you have, if you have a therapist who's comfortable talking about those things or something, or a coach, a meditation teacher, or a good friend who's actually good at this. It's good to have it, and then ask yourself, what did I learn? It's good to get another perspective on it. It's even just good to have someone to talk about it. You might have some people who are like psychedelics. What are you crazy? You want to have at least one person who's going to listen to you, because you're going to want to retell the story. It's part of the integration, and then get some new perspectives on it. And then ask yourself, what did I learn? What am I going to do differently based on what happened? Sometimes it's just automatically shifts, but other times, like if it's a new habit, how am I going to hold myself accountable to it? And the last thing I'm just saying is compassion. Sometimes if it's a big thing, like sometimes people expect too much. If it's something like that example I talked about with the feelings things, that was a big one, by the way. It's not going to be like that. That's a pretty crazy one. That kind of the story where I was out in the rain and stuff, like that's a pretty intense experience. So I don't want to scare people, think it's, because it can be a lot simpler than that. But I wanted to give people also on the high end about what's possible. And I've had even crazier things. But my point is that be gentle with the process. Even though like I had a huge breakthrough that night, did I all of a sudden start feeling all my feelings? No, but it started to grease the wheel where it started to get easier, and I started most people, not most people, all people have a lot of suppressed feelings and they've made a lot of feelings wrong. And
Yeah.
so it's a process. And when we fall in love with this it's just a next stage that the species is going to go through. And those of you who go first, it can be really fun. It's almost, I think almost everybody, most people who go through this in the beginning feel like, okay, I have a responsibility to tell my story and help other people too. So it's still early. It's like cryptocurrency or something like people think it's been around for a while. It's still brand new. People aren't using it that well. Even the psychedelics you zoom out, we haven't mastered this at all. Spirit gave it to us for a reason. It's early days. Maybe if the way up here, my spiritual line, we're maybe like 5 or 10% into something, a movement that's just begun. So yeah, that's where we are for time and space.
Yeah. That was really great. Um,
Cool.
really helpful. Yeah. Yeah, I think like you said, becoming aware of the pattern or the thing that you became aware of and then keeping it in consciousness because it's easy. I think one of the powerful things about psychedelics, as opposed to just talk therapy or some other forms of therapy,
Hmm.
is really the emotions that get tied to the experience. And you have a really intense emotional experience of seeing this thing, or maybe it's an intense
Hmm.
experience of fear or an intense experience of joy, but it allows you to anchor that learning or that memory somatically. It's easier to retrieve it, but we still have to, I think, make space for it in the conscious mind and actually make a time to think about it, say, okay, I noticed this pattern, but how am I actually integrating it into my life?
Yeah.
Um, how am I moving through the world differently now that I know this? Have I
Hmm.
noticed it flaring up? Starting to develop a relationship with it.
Yeah.
The psychedelics, I think, are like the first date, or they're kind of like this flash of insight. It's like you're in a maze, you're in a dark room, and then suddenly the lights come on, and you're like, holy shit, there's all this stuff here that's been like impeding my path. I didn't even notice it was here. And then the lights go off again. And okay, there's bumps on the ground, or there's this log in your way, but you still actually have to develop a relationship with it and start to feel it and touch it and become
Yes.
aware of it, even if the lights are off again.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and I think, yeah, and just getting these new relationships to these parts. It's part of what Ken Wilber, I learned this model, we're talking about metaphysics, fusion, differentiation, integration. So this relates to the psychedelic experience because a lot of times we're fused to things that we don't see. So one last tip is once you get the intention, you might have some ideas on how it'll go. It'll never go how you think it's going to go. Like surrender the process. So this is where psychedelic suppression can do to get you to this next phase of differentiation. It's going to defuse you from a certain fixed way of looking at things and give you some new ideas. But then it doesn't totally finish until you do this last stage, the integration phase, which is what's this new relationship with this part of you or this new situation or whatever that you actually bring it into a new way. And some things you can do right away, and some things take multiple hits. I'm getting like a strong, like some core wounds. There's something called a core wound and a core story. You're gonna need like sometimes you got to examine it from a lot of different perspectives because there's a lot going on there and there's a lot of things that couldn't be digested
Right.
and it can't be taken in all at once. I invite people rather the biggest thing that I hear is a worry. They're like, oh, like they think some people think they did it once and then they're like done. Okay, I'm like, okay, you had an experience and I'm awake now. I did this thing or I had this insight. I'm like, awakening just means you're more aware of something. Okay, what were you more aware of? There's plenty other things to be more aware of. Congratulations. We actually want to reward that awakening or that insight, that knowing consciousness and like humble. Okay, there's a lot of other things to do. So I really want to sell this like when you fall in love with it as a game, as a fun little thing that
Yeah.
just the humans can do, this growth thing where we get better and better people. And what if I'd love to see this get out there? I heard this from another healer, but like humble brags. What if instead of like complaining about shit or comparing ourselves to other people, like who cares? We all get into, hey, what are you working on? Oh, I want to hear your humble brags. I want to hear, and just like what progress you making? We start supporting each other. Yeah, or even when you're stuck, sometimes the diamond approach has
Mhm.
this tool. It's another lineage path that it's not one of my primary ones, but I've been exposed to some of the means. They have a cool technique where somebody like has got a problem and they have this thing is like you just talk about your problem and you keep talking in front of someone else or a group of people until you solve your own problem. And it actually works a lot of times.
I see.
Sometimes as you keep talking about it, it's this ability to get it almost you're fused to the idea. This is like circumambulating your head, and then as you talk it into existence, you can start to see it in a new way with new perspectives, and you get to be like, oh yeah, I see what I'm doing. A lot of times we're sabotaging ourselves.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited about this idea, and I'm interested to keep going on it
Mm,
too, maybe in future conversations and even offline. But
yeah.
you know, our social media is it's really red to orange, maybe a little bit
Hmm.
of green, maybe some of the unhealthy versions of green. You can have some.
Okay. Do your audiences know what those colors mean? I wasn't sure.
Oh, yeah, they're learning, but
Yeah.
I'll give a thing. It's Our social media is primarily focused on the accumulation of esteem, the accumulation of membership into a collective that thinks you're cool. It's like showing like
Mm,
long, I'm like everyone else. I'm cool.
yep.
That's a first tier that I mentioned, what it's called blue or amber in the integral system. Then there's the orange level, which it's called that in both spiral dynamics and integral, which is about success, achievement, accomplishment, progress, improvement. And people will post, yo, I just got this new job, or oh, look how dope my life is. I'm really balling. I'm succeeding.
Hmm.
Car, look at my this.
Yep.
There's a higher level as well, which is green or pluralism, what we usually reference as the postmodern stage. And this is where people would be probably sharing beautiful photos of nature that they're
Hmm.
going on, or highlighting activism, or highlighting community organizations they want people to donate to, or sharing their actual genuine emotions. That would be amazing, but it's hard for people to do that. Some of the people that have done that become influencers and become very
Hmm.
popular because they're more authentic,
Yep.
but it's very rare to see like integral perspectives on social media because it's hard to hold space for that. And I wonder what would it look like for there to be a container, a technology system that crystallizes some of these conversations that are already happening within integral spaces. On this call, both of us have shared vulnerable experiences
Hmm.
and work that we've done. And that's very common, I've found, within the integral community, within people who hold these perspectives. They're excited to share about transformations they've had, and they're excited to
Yes.
trauma they've integrated. And it's actually way more exciting to us sometimes than what we're eating today or whatever else.
Yeah. Look at the steak I cooked. Yeah.
And that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome too. Yeah, but yeah, it's more
what else?
depth sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would it look like to start to create a container that could hold that, could gamify that? Because it is intense, right? It isn't, I think the reason why so many of us are okay with the steak people cook tonight is because we come on Instagram or TikTok or whatever after a long day and we're
Yeah.
tired. We just want to see something that's easy to look at that doesn't take
Yeah. That's true.
this conversation. It's like taking so much bandwidth or it,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you want me to take a stab at that? Okay.
please.
All right, that's a great question. I have this vision, and I'd be curious to your feedback on it, of an app that uses AI that asks a lot of people a lot of questions, so it would archetype them. So then you'd know them a little better, and they would get to know themselves. But then it would say, what's going on with you right now? What are you looking to do? And then it would help them figure out what stage of the transformation process they're at, and then what energies they would need to like get to the next step. Because really, you could, a lot of people want to get way out there. I want to save the world. That's good. It's good to have a target. But then after you do that, then it's good to just focus on what's next, the baby steps, the thing, what's right in front of you. And so the app then could spit out like instructions on doing it. And then I bring that up because the social media component could be like this, like where people are talking about what they're doing. Hey, what are you working on? What kind of guided meditations? Which of the, so maybe the app would say, hey, here are four things. You prefer meditation? Do you prefer something physical? Do you want to be in a dialogue? And maybe even if it had like references to like places or people you could talk to who need more than just the app. They want looking for a really high quality shaman, but the social container would support that. So you'd have people who are lubed, not just integral thinking, but integral being. So there's integral is a bunch of distinctions about metaphysics, and it's heady, and I like to geek on it, and there are other people who like to geek on it, and other people, not so much. And then it's just, I know I'm not bandwidth that doesn't interest them. However, I will tell you this with my clients, I just bring it up when I feel like I have the right client who's I know it's going to help them get to their next step. So sometimes, for example, if I want to help somebody with some compassion, I help them bring what Ken Wilber calls the four quadrants. Now, the four quadrants break reality into these four areas. It says that one part of reality is this in our psychology, in our mind. Another part is our body and our behavior. Another part is culture, like the norms that we use when we're with group of people. And another part is like systems, anything from like astrology, the galaxy, to the government systems, to your plumbing or whatever. There's different systems, and
Environment, the
the
built around.
environment. Exactly. So a lot of people tend to over focus on one of the areas that they call like quadrant reductionism. And so I help them say, also, I bring in time, like what's going on in time wise. And I said, hey, I know you got a story and you're stuck on the story, but if you look at it from this wider lens with more variables, you might be able to get off that story and see it from a more holistic, compassionate perspective. Because we think we're a victim or we're doing it wrong, but it turns out the exact context that we're in were led us to doing the certain choices or the other people, and it really was never going to be another way. Like some people be, I could have done it this way. I'm like, no, you couldn't have, because if you
The
could have,
thing,
you would have done it. You know what I mean?
right?
Like you weren't in that mind frame or whatever, or have that level develop in the moment. You want to go back and spend a lot of time judging that. Is that a good use of your energy? You know what I mean? And so even little shifts like that, they add up, because a lot of people are just sitting ruminating in their head, damn, I wish I did this. I'm such an idiot. And they can't get off it because they're not digesting it. And digestion comes when we get the fruits of it, like the lessons.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love that. I really love that. And yeah, it just recently became possible. Even just last night, I was just talking to GPT, the
Mm,
four, it hadn't come through for me yet. And it finally came through last night. And I've used GPT before. I'm pretty aware of it. I've used it to help me
mm,
work, but it just really blew me away. I wasn't really expecting it, but I was just talking to it and it started asking me questions about the move to LA and what I'm thinking about. And it was a really nice process. And I imagined, whoa, if it had a little bit of understanding on the back end, what the stages of development look like, if lines of intelligence are, if it had a robust archetype
mm,
system, if it understood defense mechanisms, if it understood how to do
mm.
shadow work and cleaning up, you could have in your pocket a little developmental wizard that could help.
Yes.
And I used to do consulting work in my past life. I used to do design thinking consulting work and product design work. And a lot of that work, you have to understand kind of behavior change, how users use products and these sorts of things. And one of the things that we came on again and again for behavior change was this idea that you need a peer group that's at
Mm,
your same level, that's
mm.
with the same problems that you're dealing with, and you
Yep.
can resonate, be like, yo, are you feeling this? Yeah, I'm feeling this. It's tough. Or, oh, I just had this win. Oh, I'm looking forward to that win. Or, oh, I just had that win.
Mm,
Kind of a horizontal peer group that's like with you at your stage. And
mm,
so having what I call the future you, which is someone who's been through the transformation that you're looking to go through, sit there. And this is the traditional role of the shaman in indigenous societies, is someone who was sick, who has healed, who bears
mm,
witness to your process of self-healing. We have that future you who's saying, yeah, I'm of the same archetype. I had the same defense mechanism, like a very specific future you. And I've
mm.
overcome that thing. And I'll help bear witness to your process as this collective goes through this process of healing and transformation.
Yes.
And even hooking that into people further down on the journey where, every person on the network is a future you to someone else.
Yes.
There's a hierarchy in some sense of development that's socially ingrained. And
Yeah.
I think in that way, people would feel motivated to share what they went through because there would be a container, which is I'm connected to other people who are going through the same thing. And yeah, let's build this. Let's do
Yeah.
this.
Let's do it. Yes, 100%. This is I'm having the same vision, and it's just a matter of giving it some structure and creating a culture around it. But yeah, I think the thing that's gonna make it sticky is quick wins and measurement. Because
Metrics.
if people get the validation, the dopamine hit, like a real dopamine hit, not just dopamine's based on like you're getting a hit, but you're also like becoming a better person at the same time. And then it's like a social contagion. I think that can create a cultural movement.
Totally. Like achievements, like badges, having it be beautiful, backgrounds in design. And I always just think about like, how do you make it sexy? Have a little character that represents you and your stage on,
Yes.
and maybe you win little in Lakota culture, Plains, a Native American culture, there's when they count a coup, when they touch an enemy without killing them, which is
Mm,
a really big deal because it is. Imagine that. You are in touching distance of a sworn
hmm
enemy, literally kill you, and you touch them, you get away. That's how you get one eagle feather. That's why a war bonnet is such a symbol of reverence and power, is because if you have 20 of these things or 100 of these things going down,
Hmm.
that's a really big deal. And I think reintroducing things like that, we've gotten so abstract that someone needs a Lamborghini, which requires like German engineers or Italian engineers,
Yeah.
global supply chains to make someone get the same esteem hit
Mm.
that ancestors was getting from one eagle feather, which is a regenerative
Yeah.
wisdom. What if we could give people the same esteem hits that were contextual to their journey? Oh, you overcame this trauma, right? That
Yeah.
that earned this, like this tool or this weapon as a result of it, right? And then even just on a visual level, you could see, oh, this sort of person, that makes sense that they're my future you because oh, I need that item that they've unlocked or
Yeah. If you master certain development things, you might actually not just get a picture, but a real city. I have the gift of vision. I literally see things before they happen. And so I can make choices. Just for example, last time I went to Burning Man, I didn't get a ticket to get to Burning. Like I got a ticket, like a flight, but then I didn't have to get a ride because my spirit said, like, I got it figured out for you. And then sure enough, a weird set of circumstances. And so that kind of stuff can happen on the regular and save a lot of things. And each person have different kinds of real cities, like real, like I actually, I know a lot of people like Superman movies and stuff. But what if you got into this work and you could start developing our own superpowers? And they start off with things like intuition, and but they eventually will get like really advanced, but we
totally.
have to go through this a different understanding of how life is and a different understanding of what these steps are, and we got to stop avoiding. It all starts with feeling our feelings, because if we don't start feeling our feelings, we're not going to have enough coherent energy and bandwidth to do the things that require us to be super people. So we get the basics down now as a species. We make it cool. We stop wasting energy. We're going to get a new money. Mentioned cryptocurrency before. I'm going to make a prediction. We're going to have some healthy, non-government cryptocurrencies that will measure it, that will blow up, like start getting more and more valuable. As we being more energy people, we're using our energy more intelligent. We're going to just live in this abundant world. We're all going to be creating these epic lives. And instead of reading the news about war and everything will be like, what cool thing just happened today? What hilarious creativity. That's the world I'm envisioning. And the key, I'm gonna be bold here, is actually shifting the story before it even fully happens. Like when you start to sniff it, like now, it's like calling it. It's like heaven on earth is already here. Just not everybody's figured it out yet. And it's also like the same thing with racism. Yes, I know there's still people who are racist out there, but like then we're still stuck in the story. Yeah, racism's a thing. We suck as a culture. What if the new story is like, yeah, we figured out racism. There's a few laggards. And what if I'm going to make a couple bold statements here? Because what if I believe in freedom and as little rules as possible. And so to me, number one rule is this non-violence, like no physical violence, no war, unless it's like protection. And if we get that one right, imagine everyone's nervous systems, how much it's going to relax. We just get that one right. Okay, no one's killing me. There's no sneaky doom Hannibal Lecters out there because we learn how to deal with that kind of thing. That's what I mean. Talk about high level. We can focus on certain things. And then there's something else I was going to say. The conflict thing that I mentioned before, we focus on that. Oh, this is the one I was going to say. All right. Yeah, this is a little edgy, but I'm going to say we got to take responsibility for our own energies. Like name calling, like this whole like woke movement thing, you can't hypersensitivity, it's off. We're not taking accountability for our own emotions. Just because if I said use some sort of retard or whatever, I was serious, but I was like I said something to driver thing. Is it my fault? If you got all tweaked out, is that my fault or your fault? Isn't it more empowering for me to have who gives a shit if somebody calls me a name? You know what I mean? I'm not advocating for name
No,
calling,
no, I
but we
totally see
should
what
take
you're saying.
responsibility for like how we receive things. And when we start taking radical responsibility for what we can control, then we don't get all tweaked out by things. Who says, so what? Somebody judge you. People are judging people all the time. People judge you based on what they're judging in themselves. That's the deeper truth. So you want to take it personally, then that's about you. You know what I mean? That's radical for a lot of people, but I think that's going to be a healthier thing because I don't want to get in a world where we can't make fun of things. I'm glad that there's a lot of people who are different from me, and some people I think are goofy or they make goofy choices. They probably think I'm goofy. That's hilarious. I want getting back to making a world of play. We should
Yeah,
be able to have a sense of humor about it. We don't even know how we're alive. The whole thing's crazy. If we can't laugh about being alive, we missed the boat.
we missed the
Uh,
point a lot if we
yeah,
can't, right? If we can't laugh about it, and in service of trying to make people happy, we're making everyone scared, right?
yes,
In service of making everyone feel safe or making a few people feel safe, we're making everyone feel scared, right?
yes.
I think we're missing something, and I think we really need to train people, right? We need to
Hmm.
train people because it's one thing to say, hey, you should get your energies in order. You should be able to just deal with whatever comes at you.
Yeah,
And it's another thing to say, okay, we've given you the tools to do this. Let's employ them now. Right.
yes. That's my mission is collaborate with other people who help make the esoteric. Everyone can get the cool tools. The internet's out there, AI is here, robots are coming. Guys, like you can't take out these low levels jobs. They're gonna disappear. The universe is like the context. The
Yes.
God of context is like good to us, but we need to upgrade the operating system of the human being so that we can have the heaven on earth. Because I'm worried that some people are gonna stay stuck in these old patterns and they're not gonna be able to leverage all the beauty that's right here. And I don't know, I just want to make it easier for people and have a compassionate narrative. And also, maybe what you just said was pretty brilliant too, which is what if we have a new decentralized world where we agree on this peace thing, we work to talk about problems. You want to have certain other rules in your community and you want to aggregate and have things. I don't care. As long as you're not killing other people, you're generally good people and not stealing. We got some general things. I don't care what weird stories you got about life. If you want to
Right.
have a community, everyone thinks they're from Palladians. I don't care. I have no idea. That could be true, but let's embrace our weirdness as long as it's nonviolent and we work through conflict on the few things we do have to agree on. And then that's it. That's those few ingredients, and we can actually have heaven on earth where even people have different views. It's we're like having these huge elections and ever trying to snowball everything into everyone's got
We've
to think the
already
same
said,
way. It's who cares?
yeah. And a few things are coming through. I'm just so energized right now, and I just love this. And it's great to be here with you, man.
Yeah, likewise.
Conversations. It feels like a dream come true for me. And two things that came up. Number one is this idea of daring to dream and daring to imagine a new world, right? It's, oh, we're going to lose our jobs. Like, how can I enslave myself? Oh, they're taking my enslavement away. Like, how do I
Mhm.
enslave myself again? Who's going to enslave me now? Now that
Right.
the robots have come, it's me that I understand there are a lot of people in positions where they maybe not don't have the time or the energy or the interest to think about what the systemic thing is going to go. But the
Yeah.
people who do, it's not, oh no, we're going to lose all these entry level jobs. And how are we going to employ them? It's like, how do we envision another way of life that isn't just about employment? What if there's another way of living that isn't obsessed with success and productivity at all costs? Maybe that's been part of the problem, right? And maybe it isn't just green, level four, postmodern, nihilist, anarchist paradise where everyone just does whatever the fuck they want and basically regresses down to red or regresses down to level two,
Yeah.
do what they want. What if we actually stepped up into something new, which is, I love this idea you said of decentralization.
Hmm.
How do we come to a minimum viable metaphysics? How do we create a minimum? I think that's what I'm trying to create with
Yeah.
is in many ways. It's a minimum viable metaphysics, right? If you want to be from the Palladians, if you want to be obsessed with, we have the goth girls and we have the all these different subcultures, great. We can have
Right.
all the subcultures, but we all need to at least be running the same like survival level protocols, right?
Yeah.
I can do my hair however I want. I can paint my nails however I want. But like all humans have the same skeleton, right? We all have
Hmm.
this major organs. It's just what
Yep.
we that's unique. And so it's what are the skeleton and the organs of the new collective? What are these like new tribal laws that can keep the federation of
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
tribes together?
I think I would be focused. I'm getting the nonviolence thing's a big deal. Like the non just and what underpins it. It's easy to say nonviolence. I'm getting it's going back to what we said in the beginning, which is we gotta feel our feelings and realize because all unprocessed trauma, people like it's just the truth. Like a child rapist was almost definitely raped, and they like their psyche needs to like understand it, and then they like embody it to because there's some trying to figure it's so out of control. Like it's a lot of it's psychology. That's why I call it like a psycho-spiritual reality. And I call myself a psycho-spiritual stacker because when we combine the right tools and distinctions, we really can solve these problems we couldn't solve before quickly. If there's another new narrative that I needs to get out there is no, these are different times. Some people come at me like, hey, we would have done this before. I'm like, no, this is different. The internet's out there. The esoteric practices are out there. We're innovating in every corner. I know a lot about cool stuff, but I also know there's a zillions of things I don't know about. I'm always learning about more cool things to get together. So the heart-centered, conscious entrepreneurs. I'm calling it in. You want to, what I think is going to happen.
That's the
This is the
spell.
vision I'm
That's the
getting.
spell. That's the
It,
spell.
it, the spell, yeah. We're going to get together. We're going to create an industry that just makes it cool to grow and develop because you're going to get the good life. What you want, as long as it's peaceful and not violent. When people do their inner work, they're not going to want to be violent. And if it becomes cool to learn how to have good social skills and conflict resolution, what if that is shunned a little bit? What if, come on, dude, like stop taking things so personally, do your shadow work. Like, what if that became like a cultural norm? Maybe that's okay. Or like, all right, dude, stop calling me a racist thing. I feel sorry for you. You must hate yourself so much that you're calling other people a name. We're past that. That would be a good place for us to be where the leaders and the movers are taking this thing as let's be the new story. And then we have to, in order to make that reality thing, I think these new industry has the scaffolding for the people and has to get to everyone. But in order to do that, just a really good intentional and community, you got to have the core people really get it. Because if
Yeah.
you get some troublemakers or people way off, that could screw up the whole thing. So a really strong core in the beginning, and then start building it out and start gravitating other people who are at the next level, and then develop them, and then it just spreads. There can be like a tipping point where the energetics just explodes. There's enough people doing it, and it's enough people saying this is cool, and it's easy for other people to get it. I don't know how quickly it's going to take, but something said inside me is the field's building. But I don't. Some people say it's going to take 100 years to have peace on Earth. My spirit saying it's probably more like three. I don't know. Like I don't think it's going to be that crazy. And then it gets better from there. Yeah, if you're resonating with this message, reach out to us and let's form. Let's build this new culture, this new structure, and yeah, and start by working on yourself. Even if you don't like with another community yet, you can just start by doing some of the basic things here and trying some things out. Yeah.
I feel this so much, and I feel like this is the way I see it is we need a architecture to grow people up to the height which they can ride. And we need to get people ready to play. It's almost, I was in this improv class at Stanford, and you do 8 weeks of
Yep. I love
training.
improv.
Oh,
Yeah.
how do you pantomime? And they're building affinity between the people and they're building comfort.
Mm,
And on the second to last class, it's like a 4 hour class, and
mm,
they tell you to come. They say it's called the vigil. And everyone comes to the class and they line everyone up outside the door, and one by one they send you into the stage. The person tells you, they only tell you 3 rules. They say no talking of any kind, no
mm,
verbal talking, always be moving, you can never stop moving, and
mm,
be kind to one another. And they send you in. And this is one of the early, I was maybe 19 when this happened. This was one
mm,
of the early, or maybe 18. This is one of the early, like real state change group, like we space field experiences that I had
nice.
before I even knew what that was, because the whole group by 30 minutes in was in this field of resonance. And because everyone's
Mm,
constantly moving, and everyone was skilled enough and open enough in the improv tactics to allow the field to come
mm,
through them and allow the flow to come through them. And because there was this kind of grounding of kindness, like these amazing dynamics, almost like a school of fish, were like,
mm,
and there were prophets that would emerge and lead people, then they would die, they would get resurrected,
mm,
people would get married, like people would start families and they would disperse. Like every part of human
mm,
life was just emerging naturally, crystallizing out of the field. It was so beautiful. And I'm aware of the fact that was able to happen because of the 7 weeks of training. And I feel like the same thing is true for what's coming for New Earth. It's to create a pipeline to take people from the place that we're at right now, which is traumatized, repressed, in a fear-based consciousness, scarcity-based consciousness, self-sabotaging,
Yes.
projecting others, these sorts of places that we're at, contracted, low vibrational place. How do we create, like in Dr. Seuss, they have that like machine that takes in the thing and they come out
Oh
the,
yeah.
how do we put someone in a superhighway from orange, right? From the achiever
Mm,
mindset of the dominant mindset in our world today, which is very technologically reductionistic, achievement reductionistic. How do we take someone and take them through the shedding process, the
mm,
disintegration process into green, right? Into postmodernism, into level
mm,
4, and get them through the nihilism and the anarchism and the crazy shit that goes on in that space, and help them continue on into integral. And then when we're at integral, then we come together, right? And there was already people there
mm.
playing, and we create a container for those people to play. And once these people are ready to play, how do we bring them into the container and say, okay, let's play together. Come join us, flow with us in this new integral field. And that kind of is the center of the mandala that starts to ripple outward.
Yeah, yeah. So some part of me said baby steps. But the other thing is, what's the leverage? When we were at Icon, Ken Wilber was there, and I got to ask him a question. And he
Right.
talked about these domains that he named, thing like he said waking up, for example. Waking up means like mastering your mind. That's a big one. Then there's cleaning up, which is going into like your shadows and clean and then there's growing up, which is these different stages, these colors you've been talking about. And what I discovered is this one, I asked my question to him was like, what about energizing up? If we get our energy, not just like having a Red Bull and getting really all souped up, what I call coherent energy. So we align raising our energy, but aligning it with the patterns of you, the individual, and the species. If we all start doing that, I think it's going to speed everything up. So that's kind of what I would do. And if I had to say what patterns do you really want to know? You want to know some of your own archetype things, so you know you. So you're talking about archetypes, really like these 5 personality patterns. Enneagram. The process of change is a big one. Your energies are high energy rich or energy poor. And I'm going to say the waking up and the cleaning up tools go together a lot because the more you master your mind, mastering the mind means operating beyond the defense patterns. It's hard to clean up when you're stuck in a defense pattern because it's blocking you from feeling stuff. So I would get your energy up with your patterns, and then feeding it into like your archetypes and getting it. I don't know if that's to me is how I would
Love that.
speed things up. Yeah, and create
Love
an industry around that. And then I think people will show up. Showing up just means like being more and more an epic person.
That's so great. I love this idea of energizing up first, right? Getting into a place of abundance, of energy richness, and then from that
Hmm.
place coming down into, okay, how am I going to manifest this? What's my archetype?
Yeah.
Archetype into your waking up and growing up work. And as you start to get some ability to hold awareness and stay as the witness, as
Hmm.
opposed to jumping back into the defense pattern and identifying with the defense pattern, or identifying with some of these worldviews that are still in you, how do you rest as the witness so that when the defense
Yes.
pattern does arise, right, you can actually see,
Hmm.
notice it, name it, and then start to integrate it, start to take on a more abundance-based divine consciousness as opposed to staying in that place of contraction.
And I'm gonna say all that, and then we add what you just said before, Sangha, community. What if we then put it into a social media thing and it just becomes the cool thing? We make it a game. It's not just some spiritual people going off and meditating. It's actually like a fun game. So this is why this epi-energetics thing is a big deal because it's actually codes that lead to tantric means more like you can learn through a new habit, which is good, or you can have more extreme experiences, was like psychedelics can offer. But when you start to use these lines of code we're talking about, and you command your consciousness, the universe is very clever. You start evoking the weaver, you give it permission. Hey, can you bring certain people in there to the certain situations, and I won't even know just through my normal life to get me to feel these things. And you have to be conscious of enough that this is happening and appreciate it because it could seem like a disaster. But if you actually realize, oh, this is a game, life is conspiring to help me grow, then like lights out, things can go really fast. And when that becomes a cool thing, imagine a big party and we're all gonna have like an intention, whether you're on a psychedelic or not, and you charge the field up like we did, and everyone walks out with, holy shit, the universe is so clever, and how we all got together and had an epic experience, like, and made it fun. And like I would evoke the energies of playful fun and grace and compassion and deep feeling with growth and development. So it's not some sort of, oh, I gotta feel that dark thing. It's no, dude, we're all doing it. In Donnie Epstein's language, there's like this season of discover where you discover something that you're not doing right. And it can
I
feel,
got this in our system too.
yeah, oh, the same word. Yeah. And
But we
so it can
we
feel
call it the
icky.
fall season.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, you could exactly. So it can feel icky if that's your relationship to it, but then you could bring what's called awaken energy. So what if you know that doing discovers the shit? Oh yeah, I learned something new. Like I felt something deep, and it was just you figured out the thing you were scared of is just energy, and that you're this infinite field that can digest it easily. And as long as you're just changing a code from when you were a kid. Do you want to walk around life living life with programs where you're 6 year old, or do you want to upgrade to the superhuman codes that are going to take us to realize our infinite nature? To me, that is the choice.
that's literally the choice. And I think community Sangha helps us make that choice. Culture helps us
Yes.
make that choice. We're swimming in the field, the cultural field. And it seems so obvious to us in the field that we're swimming in right now between me and you. And it's so
Hmm.
obvious within some of these communities of transformative practice, within shamanic lineages, et cetera. But in the dominant culture, there's just no space for it. And so people say, what do you mean? You mean doing the thing? There's this cave in the corner of the room that everyone sees, like this non-conventional path, psychedelics. And you're like, you mean go in there, that place that no one's ever returned from? That place where people in this community that I'm a part of now and woven into now are terrified of and shame. It's hard for people to understand that. And I think it's just creating a party on the other side of that cave, right? Slowly people because it really isn't a cave, it's really just the doorway outside of a cage into a abundant, beautiful place. It's like you're in this tiny cage, like the
Yeah.
Truman Show, right? Of
Yes.
conventional reality. And actually there's this door that seems like it goes into nothingness, but it actually goes into the real world that's beyond,
Mm.
right? The world of creativity. And
Yes.
by creativity, the world of not knowing and the universe making a chess move back once you make a chess move, right?
Yeah.
We're in like an artificial world where we make a move and we already know what the move is going to do. It has a mortgage, it has an interest rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, there's no, the God isn't making a move back when you make a move. It's some guy in the fucking Fed making a move back,
Mm.
or it's your second grade teacher and the trauma she gave you making the move back. It's once you leave that Truman Show IMAX
Yeah.
and you go into the big open world, that's where the magic is. That's where the play is. And if there's been a couple fried out guys that have gone out there and have come back and said, "Hey guys, I learned something. Come follow me."
Yeah.
What if I think what's happening now? I'm not going to say what if. I think what's happening now, what this call is a result of me as an earnest seeker. I found Integral. I found this community. I found people who are thinking about this stuff. We're
Hmm.
living here right now. Let's do it. Let's start a party on the other side of the door and let that joyful, abundant, radiant energy come through and show people the cave you fear holds the treasure you seek. And the
Yes.
world is on the other side of that fear. And yeah.
I want to also just encourage people. A lot of people might think I need a lot of money to do this. Nonsense. Like
Yeah. Can you
literally,
talk about this quickly? Because
yeah.
I'd love to hear you talk about this. I think a lot of, especially kids my age, were thinking about, I want to live this life. I want to have abundance. I want to take care of my kids. How do I go the unconventional path and still make money? Where's that money going to come from? Could you give us some practical examples going back to grounded victory? How are you making money right now? How did you make money after this transition, if that's something you're open to discussing?
Yeah, I mean, I never really shared this too much on air, but I'll go for it because I think it's an important story. So when for most of once I got my MBA, so there was like my 20s where I was scratching by. But even, so part of me is even to share that. I remember scratching by and but I decided I'm going to get into this organizational development thing. I actually went to these meetings and they looked at me and they're like, hey, kid, you got to be at least 40 years old to do organizational development. You're too young. I was like in my mid 20s. But I looked him there. I was like, bullshit, I can do this. Like, and so, like, the universe will conspire on ways to do that. And I'm getting to share, like, what ended up happening is I ended up going to a meeting with a bunch of older people, and it was a dialogue, so anyone could talk. And I started saying stuff, And they're like, how does that kid know that stuff? Literally, I got a chance to prove it. And then they came up to me and was like, I don't know what they're teaching you in MBA school or whatever, but can you create a meeting for young people? I want to find out what's going on with the young people. And then we looked at each other and we're like, we're just going to create our own group because we're getting like a little bad energy. And we're going to just teach ourselves about this field of change. And literally, we just got together, we figured out a topic, and we want to make all of our meetings fun. So we made them all experiential. Within 2 years, our group blew up and the other group disappeared. So I'm just saying that cost me no money. So that's I want to plant these seeds in. Also, I after I got my MBA, my money got a lot better. And I had a period of time, a long period of time where I had a good salary and I did save up. I even made some money in crypto. But once I got on the spiritual path, my spirit said, you're going to invest that money in training. All those trainings I listed in the beginning, they were not, some of them were expensive. Some of them
Yeah.
were cheap. Not all the spiritual trainings are expensive, but some are cheap. But my story is that I literally got to a point where the higher energies were like, I'll just get it to the bigger concept. Like, I'm going to teach you faith. I'm going to take away your comfort with your security with the money, and you won't always know where your money's going to come from. And so I've had a period of my life that's years where every time I needed money, when my money got like super low, like zero low, like money just came like magically. When you're going for it, I'm not going to say this is universe, but if you like
You're
you
going
got to
for it.
show energy that you're doing it. The
Gotta show
universe
up.
will conspire to help you. So you don't need, there's a lot of people out there. I'm not the only person like this who talk about that they're doing their thing, they're living their dream, and there's a part where the money's not flowing until you get to a tipping point. How do I make money now? I have one-on-one clients, I do courses. Those are the main ways. But I'd say my one thing is there's one caveat with that is I didn't really start doing that until had a more powerful relation. At least the first story about the OD thing, that was before I did spiritual work. So that's one example of I didn't have any spiritual resonance. You can just get creative and the world will conspire to help you. Just having the ambition and going for it means everything. The other thing is a little bit more advanced where I was developed this relationship with this higher part that was guiding me. So I want to differentiate those. Those are two different things. But if you really want to experience the magic, start figuring out what is your passion, what's your big why. The universe, the bigger you want to have an impact, positive impact on the world, the more energy the more probably guidance you're going to get.
Totally.
What's getting in your way and working on it, and actually just take it steps. Just be in and flow. It'll just happen. And honor the baby steps. Don't get caught up in being there. Sometimes what you think is being there might be just a step to get you to what you're actually doing, which is much bigger. Because that's what happened with me. I thought I was doing one thing, and then it turns out it's much bigger than I could have ever imagined. So, anyways, those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And yeah, I think, oh, there was something that was coming through. I'm having a hard time wording it. Yeah, it came and I think, oh, okay. What I was going to say was, I think there's a part of me that says, and maybe a part of me that's speaking for my audience. You're saying bring in their codes and bring in their consciousness, but
Mhm.
saying, okay, this sounds way too easy. This sounds too easy. It sounds too good. It sounds too happy. It sounds too
Mhm.
idealistic. And I want your response to that. But my response to that is, how is it working out for you, Chief? How's it working out for you taking everything so seriously, right? How's it working out for you trying to think through every problem? How's that working out for you right now? If it was the final answer, you would have everything that you want right now. You're not going to one day wake up and think of it better and get to where you want to go. You and me and all of us are trapped in a fear-based mindset. And as long as we make decisions out of fear, that's all the fuck we're going to get from the universe. And it takes a little bit of play and a little bit of courage and a little bit of willingness to tap into the energy that in our system, in our lineage, we believe is the energy of today, summer solstice, which we identify with the
Oh
light
yeah,
mother,
that's
who is
right.
the queen in our system of play, the queen abundance and freshness and feeling light. What if you allowed yourself to feel light now, right? What if it wasn't, oh, I'll feel light so that I can be better at being a warrior, so I can be better at taking the dark father mindset of the deep winter time when we need a
Hmm.
grind. Yeah, we need that energy. And what would it look like to actually hold real space in our bodies for the light mother? What would it look like to hold space for the energy that I think, Jonathan, you embody so well, which is
Mm.
why I'm so grateful for this synchronicity and so I'm bearing witness to the synchronicity right now of you being the guest in the playroom today, because this is an energy I felt was so present in you from the moment I met you and the moment I even saw you at Icon was this energy of just pure innocence and
Oh,
this daringness to be innocent and to be open and to say, I'm a just dream. What if I just dreamed? What if I
yeah.
just thought it was going to work out? Maybe that helps it
It
work out.
helps a lot. Whoa, that was great. Thanks for your kind words. Where to
Yeah,
start? Something's saying start with the dream. All right, I'm gonna Tibetan yo. I'm gonna go right. I'm going into the esoteric, brother. Tibetans believe in the deepest things. This is a dream. Like I actually believe God is dreaming about what existence is, and he decided this is existence because it's way more intelligent than making it a physical reality. Because if it's a dream, then you can change it up so easily. It's way more brilliant than you ever imagined. This is some basic decrees to remember. I want to make it clear when I say I say decree, this is my mind, this is a dream. I'm not saying it's just my mind. It's just a dream. Is that we're all God, we're all this one mind, and we're all dreaming about existence and we're figuring it out. And that's actually a pith instruction in dream yoga, which I consider is the highest practice.
I
Like
agree.
literally there's a guy named
No
Milarepa who learned
question.
to fly and stuff using dream yoga techniques. And it sounds crazy until you understand what he did. He basically kept saying this is a dream, and then and at night he gets so lucid at night he controls the dream and he starts walking through walls and flying, and then he's like he tells his mind the night dream and the daydream same. The mind doesn't know the difference, and eventually the skills you have at the night dream you can do it at daytime. Now, that sounds crazy. It's very high level practice. However, the more people who actually start to cross over and then people start to see, oh, it really is true, then I think it won't be take the second the people who are in the next generations will have it a lot easier. So for those of us who are the pioneers, it's a little bit heavier of a lift, but whatever, I'm up for it. I like challenge. That was the other thing that I want to say about your thing. Your friend said, you were talking about that persona who says, hey, it sounds too easy. It's not that it's perception shift. It's an owning of I'm a magical gift, and this is a game where if I choose to play it, I can have higher attainments than I ever imagined. And now people like us are going to make the playbook, the games, the cheat codes. We're going to put them out and make them easier, right? And so you could choose to believe the convention thing. That's the same time you're going to spend there, or you could experiment and try these things. There's lots of challenge in my life. I'm not, and I don't know. Some part of me, I wish it all just it was super easy, and some part of me goes, you would hate that, Jonathan. You love challenge, you love games, and I think people do it, but also there are moments of magic, and it makes it worthwhile. So, does everything just drop in my lap, synchronicity wise? Some part of it says yes, but sometimes that looks like the exact challenge you need to up level. So sometimes it's a challenge, but then when I stay with the challenge, I'm like, why is the universe giving me this set of circumstances? This doesn't feel good. And then I'm going to tell you right now, this is a deep secret. It's because it's trying to get you to see and own a pattern that's not serving you anymore. So it might put you in it, like you're going to be it anyways. So it might just artificially put you in it in a way to say, hey, you're doing this thing all the time. You don't realize that you're fused to it, get off it. And like that's why it's really important for those of us who are going first to tell what success looks like. Because people think spiritual success means, hey, John, you want a spiritual path, then you should be an enlightened Buddha the next day and have $1 zillion. I'm like, oh, no. It's like but I can say this: I'm having more fun than I ever did before. More cool shit, mysterious stories. Like I told like a cool story that ayahuasca, but I got a zillion stories like that.
Yeah,
And my point is that everybody can have that life if they brave enough to choose it. And especially in your generation, it's a little bit easier. Your worldviews aren't formed. You got more degrees of freedom when you're in your 20s and your 30s. And if you start getting kids and mortgages, it's a little bit more, there's less degrees of freedom to do that. Not that you couldn't, but yeah. So
it's
I'm
hard.
grateful that one of my struggles was I wanted a family. I still plan on having a family, but because that was a challenge, I did have the freedom to do all this study. But now I feel like the Spirit's been good to me to show me these cool things, and now I'm committed to sharing it back. I think that's called the hero's journey. The problem you solve for yourself, you then give back. So, anyways.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And I want to give an invitation to anyone who's watching who heard the Milarepa story about flying, got turned off and said, okay, if this guy believes that, or if Ari believes that, everything else we've said, it goes out the window because I know the audience so far that's watching may not be people that believe that just yet.
Keep an open mind.
And so what I want to say
I
is,
can't fly, just but I do see how we could get there.
yes. And I also see how he could get there. And I've had experiences that verge on that shamanically. And if anyone's interested, go read the book A Secret Reality or A Separate Reality by Carlos
Mhm.
Castaneda
Yep.
and his experience with the Datura plant.
Yep.
And he flies, he does a shamanic experience. He becomes an ally of the Datura plant and he uses this to fly under shamanic training. And when he comes back, he's naked in a bush and he runs to his master, his teacher, and he says, Yo, did I really fly? Was I really out of my body? Because I saw the landscape and I saw all this whole area that we're in, and I saw all the geographical features, and I went very far away. But right now, I'm only like 20 feet from where I was when I took the medicine. And the teacher laughs and says something like, if you felt like you were flying, if you saw the whole fucking geography of Mexico that we're
Mm.
in right now, and this is a time when they're not in airplanes and stuff, or I guess maybe it was when airplanes, if you saw it, does it matter?
Yeah.
Does it matter that if your consciousness went there and your body's here, does it matter? What is real is maybe a little bit more flexible than what we think in Western rational science. And
Yeah.
there was a time in human history where we were maybe a little bit more open to this stuff. And maybe because of that, some of this stuff was happening. There are pretty amazing stories in the
I think
past.
it's happening in the underground. Basically, if you start to have that kind of attainment, the powers to be don't want that out there. It's going to threaten their stranglehold on perception, either the Plato's cave where they're controlling what minds things. So those people don't want to be known. They could get killed throughout history, like the witches being thing, like even like what happened to Jesus. He had special powers and his life didn't end too well for himself. And so, but we're getting into a place where I think if we did it as a species, I say that I'm planting a seed. Look, I can't do any of those special powers yet. I do have some special things like seeing the future. When I'm with a client, things come to me like I'll be like, ask someone, I'll be like, what the hell happened to you when you were 3 years old? I have no rational reason for knowing it. It's like the first time I met them. And they're like, how did you know that? And or maybe it's, oh, they say, oh, I think it was when I was 4. I'm like, whatever. I'm just instigating them. You just get these intuitive hits. And I know for sure it's real. And I can tell you, I did not consciously have those abilities before I started meditating. I'm telling you, this unbound energy surfaces new skills. And if you do think it was a little wooey, I ask you, there's something called a neutral file. This is about sharp discernment. This is my teacher, Neil Kramer. I got a lot of different teachers, but he's like a Western esoteric guy, and this is a great term. Look, if something comes at you that seems weird, but you don't really know for sure, you can do something. You can put it in I'm not sure yet. I got to gather more data. And so I believe it. This knee jerk, it doesn't fit with my worldview, therefore it's wrong. You can do that, but what's the harm of just being open? I don't know. Look at we know like 1,000 years ago when we are talking about someone says something about AI or robots or airplanes, they think you're crazy. But look where we are now. It's just like we keep growing, emerging, evolving. It's
Yeah,
part
and
of
and I
life.
would say if you are a real scientist, you'd give it a shot and you wouldn't
Yeah.
exclude something that you haven't tested yourself. And I would say there's a whole community of people, myself included, that have opened ourselves to some of these ideas. And I'm not going to sit here and preach to you that I know the mechanism of everything and I understand how everything works. But I will say, when I have opened myself to a more open mindset where I allow magic to happen and I'm looking for ways the universe is helping me and guiding me, and I have
Hmm.
clear intentions and I know why I'm doing what I'm doing and what I'm trying to do, and I'm open to that emerging in forms different than I might
Hmm.
expect. There's a difference between wanting an outcome and
Hmm.
intention, right? And this is important when we're doing manifesting, is the gift that the universe gives you may not look like what you wanted. And I've had experiences, even just at this conference that we were at, Jonathan, where I
Hmm.
asked for the universe to send me an elder. I asked for
Hmm.
the universe to send me a guide, someone who would show me the way, someone who would take me under their wing and show me the way. And one of these people appeared, and they looked very different than I thought they would. And I was open to this process, so I let it in. and we ended up having a very negative interaction. And I thought, oh my God, the universe fucked me. I took the bait. I was open to what happened. And I opened myself to this person who I thought was going to be the mentor. And it turns out she's not. And that was this crazy close call. And
Mm.
then things continued. And I found myself in a hot tub a few days later with some other elders. After about an hour or so of listening to them and feeling like they were in touch with some deep wisdom, I was like, you know what? I wonder what they think of this story. And I'm conflicted about how I handled this situation.
Mm.
And I don't know if I handled it right. And I would like their opinion. And so I shared my story with them. And what happened is they ended up showing up as the elders that I needed. And that
Nice.
story was in that moment, right? And that story served as the admission ticket into that relationship with them, right? That's
Nice.
showed them, oh, I'm serious about this and I'm thinking about the right questions. And maybe if I hadn't had that experience that I could share with them, we wouldn't have had the connection that we did. And so it's this, and I was sitting there in that experience and there were other synchronicities happening. So like right as I was telling the
Mm.
story, and it was a story about being too permeable, basically, we all started smelling the smell of a skunk.
Mm.
And one of the people in the hot tub was like, what's the shamanic significance of a skunk? And instantly it came to me that, oh, a skunk sets boundaries. A skunk is unafraid to assert itself to repel that which
Mm.
is not for it. And it's actually the same scent that the skunk emits that repels the ones that don't like it, right? Or can't deal with the smell. It actually
Yeah.
also attracts the mate, right? It attracts the correct one. It repels the
Mm.
wrong and it attracts the correct one. And I have my little skunk with me,
Nice.
our animal. And that synchronicity coming at the right time with the conversation, there's these things that happen. So what I would offer to anyone watching this who's a little bit skeptical or rolling their eyes, I would say, if you style yourself a scientist, give it a shot. Give it a shot in your own life. See what happens if you are a little bit more open to the gifts the universe is giving you, and maybe be open to the idea that we've been getting in our own way a little bit and not letting these things to manifest, and that the universe does want to help you, does want to guide you, does want to take you.
I'm getting like I got a couple like really short stories of I can't fly, but I'll tell you weird shit that's happened to me. I'll give you very mystical things. All right, one on ayahuasca, one sober. Very simple. Ayahuasca, I gotta poop bad. Okay, it happens. It's an outside circle, and there's a poop place to poop that's right outside of the circle. And I'm working on vulnerability is a big thing for me because like I called as a crybaby as a kid, and then I at some point decided I never want to be look silly again, and I stopped the crying. I stopped the feeling. Remember, I was talking about being in my head and not feeling. So that was like another important childhood wounding. So basically, I go in the potty, I take down my to go to poop, the door just flies open. I'm like, fuck. Like I pull up like this, cover up my dick, and like close the door. Boom, the door flies open again. And then I close it again. It happens like 3 or 4 times in a row. And at some point, I'm like, I gotta shit so fucking bad, dude. And I just like, whatever. I just see the whole circle. I'm like, I'm shitting crazy. Everyone can see me. I can see them. Whatever. It is what it is.
Oh
And it
yeah.
was like, I
Oh yeah.
asked everyone else, did anybody else go to that bathroom and have any problems with that door? Every person said, no, it worked fine. It was just you, dude. I'm like, that's mysticism. Like the universe was giving me an experience of Jonathan, you got to get over it. It's okay to be vulnerable. Shit happens to people. We look silly, we look stupid, shame, humiliation, no big deal. Okay, I'm gonna give you a second story, even weirder. This is very esoteric. So I work a lot with Ganesh. On his thing, he's got a mouse, okay, and he in the foot or a rat, whatever. And the thing about Ganesh is that he's good at the mouse. The rat represents the desire body, and Ganesh is kind of like the soul. So the soul influences the desire body to get like what it wants and help it grow. It's almost like what the soul does, and so Ganesh has this power of being really good at doing that. And this happened to me like last year. So I'm deep into my process and I'm really pushing through where the soul's just completely dominating and my personality patterns are like waving away. So it's giving me some symbols. So with mice. So I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm at this guy's, I'm like couch surfing at a friend's house. A mouse runs and hits my foot and I just scream. I'm like, what the fuck is that? whatever. The next day, I'm taking a walk, and my spirits go this direction. I'm like, it's not the right direction where I'm going. He's like, I don't care, just go. And then I like see a dead mouse, like on the ground. I'm like, that's weird. I never see mice. I see two mice in 2 days. So then I tell the guy I'm living with, dude, there's a mouse in your house. And then like a couple days later, I see the dead mouse in the trap. So I'm now seeing like two dead mice. And then a couple days after that, there's like another mouse like dropped into the water, like the dead, like it just drowned, like it went into a pot of water in the sink. And I was just like, that is so weird. And then I saw him again just recently, 8 months after it happened. I'm like, whatever happened with that mouse problem? He's like, hey, dude, whatever the mouse thing, it only happened when you were there. And I'm like, oh, wow. So it's just like, it's symbolism. So the message was like, hey, Jonathan, your soul, you're conquering your ego, and I'm giving you a weird magical experience. So it's like a wink. I call them God winks. The
I
universe will start winking at you hard. Some people, it's just like seeing 1111 all the time. That's like a basic kind of God wink, but it'll get more specific to you. It'll start flashing like special numbers at you. Like basically, it's not really flashing. It's just some of your consciousness will turn to the clock, whatever that number, because it's your mind is God. It's not as weird as when you get what reality actually is. If you think it's a physical reality and it's totally random, sorry, it's not how it
Sorry.
is. You'll
Yeah,
discover it yourself if you want to. It's more fun when you realize it isn't that way. That's all I'm
but
gonna say. And it's more mystical, more magical. If I don't care if people think I'm silly, I'm here to let people know it's awesome when you start to realize you get aligned with how life actually works. This is how life actually is. It's not wrong to visit the other way. It's just not as sophisticated, not as accurate, and it's a developmental stage that people go through. It's not no judgment on it. I was in there fully and having fully lived most of my life in the other version, and now I'm living in this other after I started meditating. I'm just telling you, it's way more fun. It's more playful.
it's more playful.
Yeah, I'm a more relaxed person. Do you talk to somebody before this? There's just John, you were a lot more like anxious. I'd say I had a lot of anxiety. I went back in my head. I realized some part of me thought something super terrible was going to happen any moment. Just imagine being a kid playing with your friend, and all of a sudden, like something super terrible happens. Maybe some part of me just was alert and didn't trust life anymore. And I had to undo those codes before I relaxed again and remembered, oh yeah, I'm God too, and I'm just here to play with my other God friends. But that's kind of how life is, man. I would just
You know,
encourage
it's
people to be
small.
open-minded.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It's really crazy to me how small some of those seeds are. And this like little grain of sand, that's how like a pearl gets created in an oyster. Like it's this
Hmm.
one little grain of sand that comes in, and then this calcium gets crystallized around it, or this material gets crystallized around it to the point where it becomes this big knot. And the same thing I think is true in our psyche. It doesn't take that much as a child to feel completely helpless and to feel completely.
Yes.
And some people have dealt with like really horrible trauma for extended periods of time, for extended years. And
Yeah.
that's its own thing. Sometimes it can just be one thing that starts sending you down the wrong way, and you
Hmm.
start having defense mechanisms that are trying to warn you of that thing
Hmm.
happening again. And so you start noticing it all the time. And so you start becoming fearful. And the fear then leads to maybe it happening more, or maybe when it happens again, you say, oh, this, of course, this was going to happen. And
Yep.
start fixating on this pattern. And it can start from a very innocuous place in a very happy, otherwise childhood. And we start to live in this kind of virtual reality that isn't actually connected to what's going on. And
Yeah.
as you start to free that up, you start to realize, wow, there's so many amazing gifts I'm being given all the time. There's so many amazing pieces of wisdom and guidance that people are giving me all the time. Oh yeah, that guy told me something really interesting that it's just like, wow, the universe really is here and on my side. And when you free up those defense mechanisms and that fear-based consciousness, we start to have the energy and the space to hold some of the gifts that are being given to us.
Yeah.
And I went
That's
through
so well
this journey.
said.
I think you went through this journey. It may seem like we're crazy on the other side of it, but there was a time when I thought I needed to make $1 billion company, or it wasn't worth being alive, or whatever it is. It's what are we talking about here, guys? What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Nothing that. And you wake up one day and you realize, why can't I be who I want to be now? Why can't I
Yes.
be open to the gifts of the universe now? Why is it such a big deal if someone thinks that what I'm attracted to is weird, or how I look is weird? They're projecting on me their insecurities
Right.
and their voice, their internal judge in their head that's managing them. That's fine. it has no effect on me. That's a
Hmm.
protection they're sending to me. And if I knew everything that had happened to them in their life, I would
Hmm.
understand why that projection exists and how it's defended them and helped them get through some difficult experiences in their life. And I have
Mm.
compassion for them, right? And I respect that. And it doesn't apply to me. I'm not in that scenario. I'm in a different scenario. I'm in my body, I'm in my life. And if this is what is exciting to me and sparking joy for me, and it's not harming others, then I need to tap into that. And when you do start tapping into that, the bounty of energy and the chess moves that the universe starts making back towards you, right?
Yes.
And maybe chess move is the wrong metaphor, but the power-ups, the gifts, the mentors, the
Yeah,
partners that the universe starts sending your way, it's just unbelievable.
exactly. So I think this, I'm getting this kind of like intuitive hit about it starts with experiences. It's one thing to hear cool stories and that gets you curious, but it's a big jump when you have an energy experience. So you can have it through psychedelics, but also like I'm a professional energy and trainer. Like you experience it in our chat. Like when we change the energies, things just flow. It's more automatic. It's so just for you and your audience and people out there, or even other people listening, I'm available as a speaker and a trainer courses. I can create like a field effect so people can, things can happen when the right person's holding space in the right way that can create more magic. And
That's
what I see is happening is that people start getting taste of it and then wanting more of it and then wanting to know the formulas to get there. And then so I'm not here to create a dependency on me or even the psychedelics. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm a retired psychonaut. I actually went pretty hardcore with it, so I know that world inside and out. From my hardcore period was probably like 2016 to late last year. And so I went really deep. But then the spirit said, you don't need it. You have the benefits of the psychedelics without being on the psychedelics. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because I want people to know the psychedelics are a bridge technology. States become traits. It's a Ken Wilber thing. That's the point I'm trying to make is it's not like I'm here to get people addicted to drugs. It's like they're bridge. They give you experiences, they change your perception. Just like I was with that toilet thing I was telling you about with the ayahuasca. I actually that was a big shift for me. I was already I did the neutral file thing with is this a physical reality or not? But after that, I was like, no fucking way. It's obvious that there's other forces going on that are beyond just me, that are more mystical, that are conspiring to help me. And that's a big deal to get that belief
yeah.
system in you.
And even for the skeptics out there, even just thinking to yourself, who knows? Who
Hmm.
knows what the fuck is going on? But that door opening is an opportunity, right? To not just interpret it as this is bad, this is negative. Oh no, I'm
Yeah.
vulnerable, right? That Jonathan was being offered an opportunity to, and he had the awareness and the witnessing to be able to say something is occurring. Maybe it has a different purpose than what my body and my fear-based response is saying, which is I'm stupid, I'm ugly, I'm humiliated. And you say, wait, maybe this is an opportunity for me to get in touch with my human body, for me to get in touch with my animal nature, for me to realize that every single person who has ever lived on planet Earth for more than a day that has eaten food, has taken a shit, and it's a part of who we are. It's a part of what we need to do. And this is a very sacred and beautiful and human thing that I have the opportunity to do right now, and I'm doing it. And it's not that big of a fucking deal. And that's think about it. You can think about it that way. If you don't want to think about, oh, there's some spirit guide helping me or some archetypical deity that's
Yeah.
down and giving me something. Okay, we don't, I've had experiences like that. I think Jonathan's had experiences like that. If you have an experience like that, I won't need to convince you. But if you haven't had an experience like that, just see how healing it can be to be open to an event that you think is negative
Yeah.
actually being a gift, an event you think is negative being an opportunity
Yeah. Said.
to heal and to look at our own biases and say, why am I always shitting? Why am I always shitting on myself? Why am I always taking the most negative perception here? And why can't I be open to more playful, open, beautiful, abundant, vulnerable perceptions?
Negativity breeds more negativity, man. More love brings more love. It sounds cliche, but
It's
the
true.
key is what you said. You got to learn to see your own wounds. Like, all right, I'm gonna connect some dots just to show you how brilliant the universe is. The universe really knows what it's doing. I went from being agnostic to every God got everything right. It's all perfect, but which is a kind of a weird story into itself. But look, I told you I was teased as a kid for crying, and then I put up this wall so I went from being vulnerable to learning to be strong, right? And now the spirit's saying like, hey, John, I want you to go into the Western culture and talk about Eastern mysticism, fully know that a lot of people are gonna think you're nuts. And you gotta not care because you're here to work with other people like Ari who are to create a new groove, a new understanding so we can be a better species. So it was preparing me as a kid, like how to not take things so personally. Because I want to talk about the word sensitive. So someone say, "Oh, John, you're being too sensitive." Sensitive just means that you have more information. Like you get sensitivity is good. What's not great is when you're or suboptimal is when you're overreacting to it. So
That's
if
right.
you're a kid who's like taking in a lot of information and it can get really overwhelming. And as an adult, you learn to take that information in and get some critical separation with the meditation where you like start being the observer, like you're talking about the witness, and you get a new relationship with this sensitive, this information bandwidth, and then you can do more with it. So if you're like a sensitive person and you thought that was bad, I got tools. Ari's got tools. Other people got tools that can shift that. It's about energetic boundaries. And like you were saying, getting a new relationship to those feelings. Those are gonna lead to superpowers later if you stick with the process. You stop making them wrong and realize that if you you gave yourself a hero's journey. A hero's journey is a gift. It's cliche, but it's a lot of fun. If you're here, if my story is we're God to know what it means to be alive, you're gonna want to have some arcs. You're gonna have some contrast to know as be alive. If it just was like a bliss state, it'd be over. The game would be over immediately. It'd be boring. Okay, that was fun. Orgasms. All right, well then that's not gonna be fun. That's why it's a peak state, and then you got to work towards it. And why is sex got friction into it? Come on, like the universe is telling us through symbols, like friction's fun. If you knew you were infinity and you live forever, there's no fun in that. So you're not gonna have any motivation to do anything. It's gonna be like, whatever, I'm here all the time. So the universe creates these temporary personalities and creates like all these kind of fun situations to entertain itself. This is so brilliant. And so when
Thing
you
ever.
get all this high energy, you'll see it that way too. And it's more fun way of being.
I completely agree. And I think with that, on the summer solstice, the highest
Yes.
energy day of the year, where the
Yes.
sun rules for the longest and the light shines the brightest, I don't think there's a better day to have been here with you, Jonathan.
Yeah, likewise. Love
Bask
the
in some of this
synchronicity.
sunshine energy that you have. It's really been a real reminder to me of some of the things that I've learned along the way. Even just this conversation,
Yeah.
there's so many things that I've come to, and I think earlier in my journey were maybe a little bit more alive to me. Now, coming out of the original experiences, sometimes I've even forgotten myself some of these feelings, and just
Hmm.
having this conversation with you, I'm feeling again this feeling of abundance, this letting the shackles of fear-based consciousness, of contraction, of scarcity mindset, of the presence of the past that on. I'm feeling a lot of these things being released. And this is exactly what I needed going into this next chapter of my life in LA and being more in public with people and doing this podcast. I'm so grateful. Deep, deep bows and
Oh,
gratitude to
thanks.
you, big brother.
Nice. Okay, like I said, because first off, I just want to say thank you. It's been super fun. This conversation is super close. If you ever want me on again, be up for it. If people want to follow my work, I have a website, www.mozenter, MOZENTER.com. I have a course that's called Rapid Transformation. It teaches all these distinctions. You get a couple one-on-one sessions. I'd be happy to send it to you if you want to put it in the show notes. And YouTube. I think I'm just at Mozenter, my last name. You can find me. I got all kinds of videos. So I just want to leave on a really optimistic note, if it's more possible. We are at the most luckiest people ever. We are about to create super abundance for the planet. Come join us early and have a lot of fun while we're creating the systems and culture. Faster you get it, the more fun you have. Love you guys. All right. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks, Jonathan. That was perfect.
All right,
Bye,
perfect.
everybody. Look at Jonathan's stuff in the description and check him out. I can't say enough good things about you. So love you, man. And thank you, everybody.